Tonight on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive, we go racing for the longest event on the calendar. And while it may not be on the Roval, the Charlotte Motor Speedway is going to provide a full night of action as we cross the halfway point of the season and narrow in on the playoff cutoff. The 43 best oval sim racing drivers in the world are going to have 300 miles tonight to do something about that. Before we go topside, though, to get tonight's action underway, let's take a step back and look 2 weeks ago from Richmond. This week's iRacing race recap from round number 6. We're so happy that you're with us tonight on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive. The pace car off and away, and a Gottinger off and away as well. Green flag in the air, and we are off from Richmond. Battle to turn 1. For the first time, race leader going to be able to get things spread out as we battle side by side.
As we have a caution out on the track, I see smoke coming off the backstretch.
Caution is out for the first time tonight behind your race leaders. Looks like the 71 of Mitchell Hunt is turned around at lap number 18. So pace car down and in. We'll see what the number 10 can do. More so importantly, I think keep an eye on a battle for second behind him. Green flag flies. We go back at it again. And a beautiful jump. Ray Alfalla. He'll go third to second to quarter 1. P3 going to go to Kenny Humpy, who started 9th and is now +6 on the evening. The next driver that he will attempt to set his sights on is Ray Alfalla, who made quite the spirited charge to second. Kenny Humpy, who was about 10 laps ago, 2 seconds off of the race lead. Since then, he passed Ray Alfalla, made up a second and about a third, and now the gap between P1 and now P2 Kenny Humpy is only 0.7 of a second. So this 58 is absolutely charging. Battle for the race lead is going to be on at lap number 76. Kenny Humpy to the inside started this race in 9th position and has really put the pedal to the metal at the last 10 laps as this run starts to get down to pit stops. And the 58 this time by first time new race leader for him, lap 77. So look at Zach Novak, your race leader, is getting passed by guys that are 1-2 laps down like it's nothing because they've got fresh tires, he does not. But because this track is so short, and to be honest, it's a rather long pit lane all the way from the center of turn 4 down to the exit of quarter number 2. When these guys come down pit road, they spend a lot of time down pit road. You're going to either go 1, if not 2 laps down just by pitting, depending on where you were running. Now, Alfalla's been able to spearhead this charge back through the pack because he was one of the first drivers to pit, therefore one of the first drivers to get fresh tires, to get back out there. Vincent waited a little bit to do so. Alfalla's going to get to these guys up front. Assuming this stays green, Novak low boost, not going to be able to make it to the end. Tires not going to be able to do anything with it. So the two right now, I think, in the best position.
Caution is out on the speedway and right in front of Corey Vincent. It does come out at a corner number 4, so that will put us back under the yellow flag. And we got one car with heavy smoke. That's Byron Daly coming down the front straightaway involved in this one. Yeah, Zach Novak in the 15. Quick pit work down and away and beat everybody off pit road. Ryan Lowe and then Ray Alfalla, I believe.
Lights out on top of the iRacing.com pace car. Here we go. 48 laps to go from Richmond. Novak takes the American Ethanol green flag and he sets sail to turn 1. Second time tonight, Ray Alfalla, who restarted 3rd, is going to make a charge for P2. Wasn't able to get it outright, but battles for 2nd. All the way on the bottom is the 2. The 15 pinches him down, and Novak is going to be able to hang on. He'll shut the door. Tried to get to the inside. Alfalla with a bump and run. Side by side for the lead. Lap 171. Novak, a fantastic job of playing defense.
Humpy looking to the inside of the 2 of Ray Alfalla. Maybe a little bump to the middle of 1 and 2. Kenny Humpy is hungry. He wants his 3rd straight win.
Oh, there we go. Contact Novak, he pushed up on the 39, got him out of shape, and here comes Ray Alfalla. 3 wide with lap traffic. Can the 2 get the race lead? Yes, sir. Novak, I think, tried to rough up the 39, but he hooked himself on the back. It cost him time, and absolutely no hesitation. Ray Alfalla to the race lead with 14 laps to go. Big run this time into turn 2. How desperate does he get to quarter number 3? To the bumper, he looks. Can he execute? He'll come up about 6 inches short, spinning out of 4 as Ray Alfalla hangs on and wins from Richmond. The road to $10,000 runs through the Tar Heel State for the 7th and the longest race on the 2017 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing. We're from NASCAR's backyard. We're happy to say good evening, Sim Racing fans, and welcome to tonight's Charlotte 300 on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. Happy to be topside with you, as always, myself, Evan Pisoko, with Cam Walsh and Tim Terry at a RaceSpotTV broadcast booth downstairs and pushing the buttons, Hugo keeping us on track tonight and bringing our coverage to you tonight on iRacing Live, but of course on the Motor Racing Network. Cam, tonight is a unique race in the fact that it is the only time that we go 300 miles all season long. But let's not look too much into that. If you're running at the back of the pack, the extra little bit of mileage is, you're going to really feel it. But in reality, only 33 more laps than what we typically do at these 1.5 mile racetracks all season long. So there is some perspective to put tonight into, but it is a long one with 300 miles start to finish.
Yeah, we got to remember we are going to be hitting speeds well over 200 miles an hour, almost tapping into 205 heading into corner number 1. So while we might be going a little bit further, the actual lap times are fairly hastily around here. Our top qualifier is 26.6 is Dylan Duvall. So it might seem long, at least to the drivers, but it probably will go quick for us. And if we don't get cautions, the lap count goes very quickly. But with that exit coming off of 4, though, you never know. And especially in the overcast conditions like this, with 81 degrees on the track and 82 degrees in the air.
This is obviously a completely different championship, Tim, to what we've seen in past years. We're paying much less attention to the guys at the top of the championship and looking a little bit further down towards that top 8 cutoff with the playoff in this 2017 campaign. But notably, as you just saw there, Ray Alfala joined Bobby Zelensky, Alan Bowes, and Ryan Luza as winners so far this season. And now we're past the halfway point of this regular season. We start to count down. Tonight, Pocono, Sonoma, New Hampshire, Indy, Michigan, and then we go playoff racing for the first time. You're starting to run out of time if your name's not somewhere inside the top 15.
Just remember, there's still 6 races to go before we hit that cutoff. Yes, there are some drivers that are comfortable, Evan, but there's some drivers that really, they're on the hot seat right now with 6 races to go. This Charlotte race could be a turning point for some of them as we get ready to go green.
We'll have plenty of time to talk about that and much more over the course of tonight's race, but the warm-up session is just now drawing to a close, and we're getting set to drop the green flag for round number 7. So, that being said, let's head trackside and take a look at tonight's RaceSpotTV starting grid. As noted, a pole position tonight courtesy at that 26.6 would have only 2 drivers to break below the 7s. It is Dylan Duvall with the 6.90 to qualify on the pole. Kenny Humpy, 5/1000 of a second off. We'll start alongside him in second. Cody Baez and Michael Conti, 2 series veterans, going to make up row 2. They'll start 3rd and 4th respectively. And winner from 1 week ago, Ray Alfala, will roll from P5.
And in position number 6 is going to be Brian Schoenberg and his number 55. Corey Vincent will be starting in the 7th position. Bobby Zelensky will be starting in 8th. Jimmy Mullis will be starting in the 9th position. And rounding out your top 10 is Ryan Michaeluza. Let's see how he moves through the field.
Just outside the top 11 on the starting grid is Andrew Fayash, the 3rd, followed by Chris Shearburn, David Rattler in the 09, Alan Bowes in the 21, and Zach Novak in the 15.
Nick Ottinger going to join him on row number 8. He will start in 16th position. Matt Busa, Brad Davies will start 17th and 18th and make it up row number 10. 19th tonight for Christian Challoner and 20th for Marcus Richardson.
Philip Dion's the 94 car will be starting in 21st. Adam Gilliland in 22nd. Timmy Hill will finish out 23rd right now for his starting here at Charlotte. Derek Bordeaux will be starting at 24th, and Will Cooley, as the cars start rolling off, will be starting inside in 25th position.
Michael Johnson, 26th, Alex Bergeron, 27th, Brian Blackford in 28th, Brandon Schmidt in 29th, rounding out your top 30, the 73 is Jake Nichols.
Blake Reynolds, Trey Edson, Chandler Krizik, Nolan Scott, Byron Daly round through 35th with Tyler Hill, Nicholas Johnston, Josh Perry, and PJ Sturgis. With Taylor Hurst, they make up 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. Jake Sturgis, Ryan Lowe, and Casey Tucker going to make up the final 3 spots on tonight's grid and round out the field. That's a look top to bottom at your RaceSpotTV starting grid. The field paces down into quarter number 3. Let's talk about this Charlotte Motor Speedway. Every single person who has an iRacing account, has this track. This is the most popular oval on the sim. Everybody knows how to run it. Some people like it more than others, but we've got 300 miles to determine who's the best on this particular night. And as always, we're so happy that you're with us on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive. Pace car down and away in the field, and hands up Dylan Duval. Green flag flies. We're underway from Charlotte for the 7th race of this NASCAR Beginner for Series campaign. Race leaders sorted out for the first of 200 times to quarters 1 and 2.
Dylan Duval with a fairly good start. Penny Humpy and Cody Bias right on behind. There was quite a bit of a hubble in the middle of the pack. A lot of people tried to jump the start, but it actually all sorted out, which is a good thing to see. We'd hate to see early cautions here at Charlotte for the longest race that we have for the NPAS. But as Dylan Duval takes lap number 1, the field is really still stacking 2 by 2 as we start lap number 2.
Charlotte's a very racy racetrack. Top, bottom, don't matter. You can do something with it. Conti, though, maybe a little bit too high that time at 1 and 2. The 5, Peak Ford, lost a little bit of ground. And the 10 to Corey Vincent fighting up his inside. Just in front of them, though, Ray Alfala on the charge. Started 5th, and he picked up 4th very quickly. Now he's trying to go for 3rd, and he's got it inside on Cody Bias. Bumped the 2 up now, +2.
Yeah, the 2 looking pretty sporty here early in this one as we continue to work on lap number 3. Ray Alfala working towards the front of the field and trying to see what he can do with the teammates that took those top 3 spots in the qualifying session. Right behind him, though, it looks like Cody Bias under pressure from Corey Vincent. Vincent has looked strong these last few weeks, trying to close the deal and try to get back into victory lane as the 10 looks underneath of Bias as they come off of corner number 4. They're side by side for 4th.
The 10 just about had that thing. Bias wasn't going to give up, and they are nose to nose back off to quarters 1 and 2. And it is very cool conditions. You can see the sun not shining on the racetrack. Temperatures are down. The track's got a little bit more grip in it, coming in at just 82 degrees Fahrenheit. The inside going to finally work out for Vincent. And how about some contact? Bias, a little bit of a nudge from Ryan Lewis at that time, because the 10 at a 27, no way. The only side-by-side fight, because still inside of the top 10. Conti on the outside with some drafting help. Jimmy Mullis, a nice push down the front straightaway as they try to maintain 7th and 8th on the outside of the racetrack. Looks like they have a run on Luza this time for the 5.
Schoenberg is watching that battle as it progresses. He's dancing between the high side and the low side nearly every lap, which is allowing Alan Bose and Bobby Zelensky to also enter the picture. They're still 2 wide, Ryan Michaeluza and Jimmy Mills, as they continue on to lap number 6. Good battling going on between Cody Bias and Michael Conti. They don't want to get too aggressive too soon. The last thing you want to do is end your races already. There is one car slow on the inside. That's Nick Ottinger. Not quite sure what Nick has managed to do in that 05 Toyota Camry, but something is afoot, and now he is going to be listed many laps down, actually. I almost wonder if he didn't take the start.
I think he missed it. Was just taking a look to see if he had some sort of an issue getting into the sim. It doesn't appear like that's the case, but Nick Ottinger did miss the drop of the green flag, and it wasn't just to the point where he started from the pit lane, because just as now he blends up on track, he'll be 5 laps down to get tonight's 300-miler kicked off. So far, no challenge for P1, although Ray Alfala has since gotten to 2nd and is trying to do something with Duval. The gap between 1 and 2 still about a car length. Still fighting, though, going on inside of the top 10. Michael Conti is able to find himself in P5. I'll tell you what, for how bad that 5 looked like he was going to be in a position when he was up on an outside in 1 and 2 on lap 2, going all the way back to only lose 1 spot and all that, not a bad deal. Here goes, though, that battle for the race lead. Alfala to the inside at a quarter number 2. Duval not the best run coming off, got a little bit tight up on the fence, and Alfala to the race lead, lap number 8, looking to go back-to-back winner from 2 weeks ago at Richmond.
Ray had a great run off turn 4 the last time to really set up that pass off of corner number 2. He goes to the lead and already extends it by 1 car length. Just behind them, though, position number 6 getting hot. It's the 27 of Cody Bias on the inside. On the outside, Jimmy Mullis beginning to move as they go at it at a corner number 2. They've caught Michael Conti. Ryan Lewis and Alan Bose also a part of this battle as they go at it down into corner number 3.
And all of this is still inside of the top 10, not even to mention plenty of fighting going on from that point back through the field. But Bo's trying to get up somewhere. He started outside of the top 10, has creeped his way in here and drops Ryan Lewis back to 9th with that move. Move Bo's up 6 from the start. Not in the clear, though, and in fact, you would think with him being on the inside of the 40, that's him making a move to the bottom. He's almost stuck there away because everybody else is going topside. The 83, the 1, the 40, the 27, and the 5, at least down in 1 and 2, all preferring the outside lane of the racetrack, so maybe Bose is going to end up losing a spot in this. Luza will take back that spot that time by, and Bose, if he can't hang on to the 83 of Zelensky, will fall back to 10th.
Yeah, and I think the track is really starting to come in, and we got to remember here on the iRacing service, the track does evolve and change as time goes on. Dylan Duval and Kenny Humpy, they were having a fairly good scrap going on until Kenny Humpy almost lost it coming off of 4. He got shuffled back behind Corey Vincent. That's now allowed Dylan Duval to simply focus on Ray Alfalla, which he will. They're going over 203 miles an hour, going into corner number 1 for the 12th time, as you can really start to see people diverging. Michael Conti staying towards that white line. Kenny Humpy almost riding the bright yellow walls of the outside here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and here Kenny Humpy will look to the inside of Corey Vincent, and that's not necessarily a done deal here. As he'll get under throttle, he will be able to slide up ahead, almost a bit like a slide job that you would see in the World of Outlaws series, but nope, just not happening for Corey Vincent on the over and under, as these guys, they are getting quite racy here, and that's allowing Michael Conti, Evan, to enter into the picture.
Yeah, inside, outside, again, using a multitude of options. It almost looks like, though, higher in 1 and 2, lower in 3 to 4. You saw Conti on the inside that time, but it opened up the door for Bias, who was topside, swooped to the inside with all of the momentum. Will now go down to the inside in 3 and 4, and now Conti fights back on the outside. I don't think we're at a point yet where there is a single preferred lane. Obviously, the outside gets that massive run coming down the bank and using that 24 degrees of banking to their advantage, but almost a little bit of 3 wide with the 27 to 40 and the 5. 2 sets of 2x2 this time down the back. Luza doing battle behind them with Zelensky.
Last time through 1 and 2, Dylan Duval was on the inside of Ray Alfalla through 1 and 2. Really stormed the corner the last lap by, but Ray Alfalla will take back a 3-car length lead the next lap by to complete lap number 14. And as we mentioned, behind them continues to be side by side. It's Michael Conti looking on the inside. Outside, it's Ryan Luza. They go toe-to-toe at a corner number 2. Behind them, Zelensky begins to move on that outside line. You mentioned it, Evan. There's really no preferred groove right now. Everything seems to be even through 15 laps. It's just a matter of where your car is working the best. They come out of corner number 4 this time. They'll complete that 15th lap.
And you see the 5 of Conti again, lower line off of the corner, and a huge run for Zelensky. He'll clear him, no problem. Was behind him at a 4. Seemingly didn't have a shot, but it was about 5 miles an hour quicker on the front and got him just like that. So Zelensky going to jump up to 7th, and Michael Conti's headaches are going to continue because he has been busy since the drop of the green flag in this race. Now it's going to be 16 laps prior to now. So far, so good from Charlotte. Tightly packed is that 15 machine to the inside. Zach Novak slicing to move at a turn 4. He'll try it off in turn number 1, and he got him. So Conti sliding back, whether he's on the inside or the outside.
Yeah, and the fellow Toyota of Alan Bose hovering onto the inside in that number 21 car. As up front, though, we have still got a constant duel for the lead. What's impressive is Dylan Duval will take the lead. He'll slide up in front, slot himself in the lead position, but Ray Alfalla, he'll be able to get the overspeed coming in, and he should have a challenge going on the inside into 1, unsurprising. But what's surprising, though, is that these guys have been racing each other side by side, lap after lap, but their lap times are still equal, if not faster, than the guys who are all hovering single file behind and trying to pursue them down. So Ray Alfalla, Dylan Duval, the current front runners right now, not just in position but in pace, and they almost go door to door. Ray Alfalla a little loose coming off before. That gives Dylan Duval gap he needs, maybe some breathing room.
Yeah, that was some good fighting. Now, Alfalla initially, when he got to the race lead, protected the bottom. Duval went to his outside, almost cleared him all the way, and then ended up crossing it back up, slid up in front of him, and then you saw Alfalla try to fight back the next time on the inside of the racetrack. It didn't work out, and now Dylan Duval is back to the race lead. Your pole sitter, who got caught by Alfalla and then passed, didn't roll over, and now sits 0.2 of a second in front of him. Those two, though, pulling away just a bit from third and company. Kenny Humpy, third the last time by, almost a second flat. Bond for the race lead in third, and he's got his own little party of his own to deal with. Vincent taking a peek to the inside that time. Nothing comes from it. The 27 to Cody Bias hanging out in the number 5 position right there as well. So you have these groupings of cars, first and second, 3rd through 5th. 6th and 7th, Luz and Zelensky still side by side in the corner. Groups of cars all over the racetrack, plenty of action wherever you look.
Yeah, great little battles throughout the top 10. Novak now taking a look underneath Zelensky to try to take one more spot away and move a little bit closer to what could be the top 5. Ryan Luza next up on the list for Zach Novak in position number 6. Just in front of them continues to be side by side with Bias, trying to get by Corey Vincent, trying to make it happen on the inside line as they come up at a corner number 4 this time. We'll have 21 laps completed. Bias a little sideways on the inside. Vincent's going to get the run at a corner number 4. He'll have the spot at the stripe.
To give that spot to the 10, 27, not going to give up, though, continues to fight back at the inside. Dylan Duval had to deal with some lap traffic. Only driver 1 lap down, Nicholas Johnston, blended back up out of the pit lane on the back straightaway, even with Duval. He let Duval go, but obviously fresh tires from just coming off of the pit lane meant Johnston was much quicker. 42 checked up for him in the setup at the corner to let him go. I was curious to see if that would have an impact on his gap to Alfala. In fact, it didn't. That gap still at about half a second. In fact, it gains by 1/10 to .666. That last time around, Duval in front of the 2 of Alfala. And again, we noted that when we're talking about all this inside of the top 10, there's a lot of fun stuff going on throughout the pack, including a battle for 15th. David Rattler, Michael Conti, the 70 Christian Challenger all involved.
Yeah, and Jimmy Mullis and Andrew Fayash III are also, we're just started up front, leading this pack almost, with Marcus Richardson being the only car up front that actually has some distance that they could draft up to. But for Andrew Fayash, Jimmy Mullis, and Derek Bordeaux, they're continuing their battle. And then, of course, you've got Christian Challenger, Michael Conti, Nick Ottinger, who is all those laps behind Chris Shearburn, and Matt Busa also having their own little duels. They always seem to go single file down the back stretch, but it's up the corners 3 and 4, the front stretch, and 1 and 2, where they're really seeming to throw their cars around and taking their different lines. They're really trying to find out where this track is going, trying to throw some heat around, build up a line that they could potentially use. Just looking through where these guys, some of these guys started their race. I mean, you're looking at Derek Bordeaux. He started in 24th. He's up to 13th now. So some of these cars are managing to work their way through the field, yet some are staying exactly where they started, like Andrew Fayash.
Having a couple of issues, I believe, trying to find an upper on it. One driver appears to have had some sort of an issue trying to get an update on Jimmy Mullis. That car was up inside at the top 12, is no longer on the racetrack. May have had some sort of an electrical issue on his end of things on his equipment. We're taking a look at a battle still inside of the top 10. How about Ryan Luza, the 1 up and down a couple of times tonight? He is a driver who has already seen victory lane here in 2017. And Bobby Zelensky, who he is fighting with, has as well. Those are your top 2 for the 16-17 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. And they run right now 7 and 8 on the racetrack.
And they're 1st and 3rd in the standings when it comes to this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. And they're trying to reel in Kenny Humpy in car number 58. He's fallen back 3 spots in the last few laps. Let Zach Novak go the last time by, and Humpy came close to the wall at a corner number 2. That last time by is he's got Luza and Zelensky chasing him right now. Humpy missed a race earlier this season, Evan, working his way back up through the standings. If he can turn it around here at Charlotte and get a little bit closer to that chase cutoff, I'm sure that's where he wants to be. But nevertheless, your top 7 or so single file, and actually they've got a little bit of a gap, working back to position number 8, which is currently held by Alan Bowes. At position number 9 as they go at it back there. They're side by side for 10th.
That's the 05 machine also coming up to the pack. Take it eye. Trying to get through the field here. That 05 machine trying to find a way through traffic. Scored in 43rd position is Nick Ottinger. Again, he had a little bit of a slow start to this race. Missed the opening 5 laps of contest. He runs 5 laps down. Better tires than these guys to work his way through, and I think with fairly good success as far as not interfering in that battle too much. Davies, though, not going to get the entrance to 1 he wanted. Marcus Richardson tosses it in there, not going to have much speed off the corner, and I think down the back straightaway it'll be Davies, Richardson, and Fayash, although there's that 77 again, boxing the 01 out to the inside, trying to find a way by. This battle continues, 5.1 seconds off of race leader Dylan Duval.
Yeah, and I've seen Brad Davies, that number 11 car. He's scraped the outside wall a couple of times coming off of 4 with how high of a line he's been wanting to run. But overall, though, they are still running good. You don't want to really ding up this car too much. Of course, with how fast these cars are going, any damage is going to be counterintuitive to these cars. As Andrew Fash, he'll lean to the inside now. I think it's getting to the point where they really can't, as they're almost going to go 3 wide, you really can't pick your lanes anymore, as Andrew Fash is showing that. It looks like Marcus Richardson and Brad Davies were able to really pull coming off of 4, but Andrew will get the line going to the inside. They'll go 3 wide for 1 second, 2 seconds, and then Marcus Richardson, he'll be the first one to yield just a little bit, but Brad Davies, that car seems to be wiggling a little bit. I think, Evan, at this point, you got to start looking at tires, and I wouldn't be too surprised if people don't start coming in and getting those much-needed Goodyear Eagles, and we don't start seeing some green flag pit stops.
And one thing that the extra 33 laps compared to what we normally see at these 1.5 milers in tonight's race at 200 laps and 300 miles in distance is going to be basically an extra trip down to the pit lane, which opens up a whole new can of worms when it comes to the pit strategy. But the opening 32 laps of this race, clean and green. And a couple of drivers, read on QCam, covered over the radio, said that they are going to be headed pit side this next time around. So 32 laps into this thing, starting to have guys from the lead lap trickle down pit road. Derek Bordeaux, one of them, spins it onto the pit lane. I think he got it down to speed in time.
And Corey Vincent, one of those ones inside the top 5 that has decided to come down onto pit road on this lap. So we'll wait and see if those guys up in front, when they decide to peel off, and when Dylan Duval, Ray Alfala, Cody Bias decide to come down, they'll probably force some hands and some other drivers that are on this lead lap. As your top 3 come out of corner number 4, they'll come across the line right here. They'll complete lap number 33 on the racetrack and begin 34 as Duval's in a little bit of traffic, and the traffic is passing him right now. Those cars that just came down pit road, including Matt Busa and Ryan Lowe, just passed your leader.
And those are a couple of names who started towards the front of the field here who are now off for the lead lap. So you got a lot of lap down guys. That's one of the risks that comes with short pitting per se, or kicking off a cycle of pit stops at a track this size. 27th through 37th are 1 lap down. That's simply because they pitted and a race leader has not. But you could see with those cars with fresh tires just how much quicker you are on fresh tires compared to 35 lap old tires. Duval, though, still yet to come down to the pit lane. Alfala, Bias, Novak, and Humpy through the top 5 as they run right now. Biggest mover amongst those names is Zach Novak, who started this race 15th with his P4.
And right behind him, it was the second place starter of Kenny Humpy. Looking through the actual pit numbers, Ryan Michael Luza will come into pit. Jake Nichols will come into pit. Corey Vincent is the one who had come in right now. He was the earliest, or he was the latest pitter, I guess I should say, the front-running pitter, but now I have a feeling that many more cars are going to be joining onto pit road as time goes on. We saw last week, well, 2 weeks ago, we saw at Richmond many different tire strategies evolve over the course of the race, and I think because of how short the track was, it really opened up the scheduling and how long you could hold that out. I think here at Charlotte, I really think that there is a time limit on how you can, how long you can really go on those tires before you really need to come in. I mean, look at Derek Bordeaux. He just went 3 wide on the outside of Alex Bergeron and Brad Davies as he works his way through the field. He's scything right through them. As you can just see, the speed here, Evan, is, well, A, it's impressive, but B, I almost worry that something might happen if these guys tango.
It's always one of those treacherous points in a race when you've got people in the middle of a pit cycle, fresh tires, old tires, multiple lines, and a very quick closing rate. Things can head downhill pretty quickly. Not sure what has happened with the 42, but Ray Alfala's catching him. May have a battle for the race lead before these drivers come down to the pit lane. Maybe 10 laps ago, Dylan Duval was running a couple of tenths in front of Ray Alfala. He was about a second in front of that 2. And 1.2 seconds in front of the driver in third. That's significant because about 25 laps ago, he was a second in front of the driver in third, and Alfala was right there. So it looked almost more like Alfala was the one falling off as opposed to Duval pulling away, but now here comes the 2. Duval bobbles in turn number 2, and Ray Alfala pounces all over it. He will go to the race lead, but I think both of those drivers now going to be headed pit side right away.
So here they come at a corner number 4. The 2 and the 42 are going to head down to the attention of their crews. And this will be lap number 39 into 40. They're not going to be alone. Zach Novak is going to join them, as well as Kenny Humpy, Bobby Zielinski, and Cody Bias. So a lot of your leaders that were in the top 10 are now on pit road. It hands the lead over to Andrew Fayash III. And we've seen Andrew Fayash III a couple of times in this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze series play some pit strategy. Do we see anybody out here try to stretch this and go to 50 laps and try to cut one stop out?
We got one extra pit stop, about 33 extra laps in this race. We probably saw people start to come down pit road at about lap 33. Fayash, though, is going to come in at lap number 40. That would have put him on par to be able to come back down the pit lane at lap number 80. And then 120 and 160. Be able to do this race on a 4-stop strategy. You cut it any more shy to those who first came down pit road towards lap 30, you might not make it on 4 stops, depending on how short those stints are. So that is something to keep in mind. I think lap 40, though, a pretty sweet spot to break this race up.
Yeah, longest stint I'm seeing right now is 21 laps. So 21 laps ago, Nicholas Johnston came in and got his tires, which I believe is well out the realm. I think he's just trying to make up some positions when he can. The other couple of cars I see is the car of Blake Reynolds. Reynolds came in at 15 laps ago, so he's the one that one of the couples that really started kicking this pit cycle off. All cars have now come in for pitting, so we should see all of the the positions normal out as far as who's laps down and who's not. The only car I see that's legitimately 1 lap down is Byron Daly, of course, on top of Nick Sturgis and PJ Sturgis. I'm not quite sure what's happened to him. Something has troubled afoot. That number 57, he's in the pits right now, 4 laps down. Not the day that PJ Sturgis has wanted to have, not really the season that he's wanted to have either, but of course, these things do come and go. Current leader right now, though, is at number 10 of Corey Vincent.
And that comes with the short pit. Ray Alfala much quicker, though. He is the driver that would assume to that number 1 position. Again, just based on how the tires have worked out, he was leading this race before he came down pit road. Not necessarily, though, at the beginning of the pit road cycle. But he just picked up 2 spots, got around Timmy Hill, got around Jake Sturgis. He's 9 seconds total off of Vincent. He's going to slowly work on his way to catching the 10. But if we see a 10 lap or so, even from the 2 extremes in this first cycle of pit stops, Tim, a nearly 20 lap discrepancy between first people who pitted and the last people who pitted. That means it could be a 40 lap difference by the time we get to the next cycle, and then a 60 lap difference, and then we're talking about completely different strategies.
Yeah, if this thing stays green, we might see some drivers take 1 less pit stop than the others, and we're going to have some strategy play out if this thing does stay green. Lap 45 being worked on the board, and you mentioned it, Corey Vincent came down a little bit earlier compared to Ray Alfala and Dylan Duval and a couple of other drivers that were in that top 8 pack before we really started to see pit stops. But Corey Vincent right now has a 3.7 second lead on Ryan Luza. Last time by, Luza was a 28.15 to Corey Vincent's 28.33. So there's only 0.2 of a second there or so a lap, and there's about a 3.5 second gap between those two.
And if you want to try to keep track of everything that's going on, I encourage you to use RaceSpotTV timing by going to www.racespot.tv/timing. You can take a look at live timing, keep track of where everybody is, how many pit stops, how many people have, and how long they have been on track since then. It'll help you keep a little bit better idea of what is going on in the strategy game. But at this moment, where we've kind of cycled through this first stint, we're back to 38 drivers on the lead lap. Byron Daly, first driver, 1 lap down in 39th, and Tyler Hill 1 lap down in the 40th position. We'd beat the drivers looking for way-bys. I noted earlier in this one that Jimmy Mullis had some sort of an issue. He has now gotten that car back on track, was running top 15, although he's fallen about 15 laps down, and he is at the complete back of the things now. He's running 43rd on track. Just an update on the 40, who had issues earlier on in this one. Nick Ottinger, who started this race late as well, still stuck 5 laps down.
Yeah, and I'm also, I've just been looking through what's happened to PJ Sturgis. I'm not sure if perhaps he had bashed the outside wall. He just sort of came into pits, they did the work, and the car has been sitting there, and he is now sitting 10 full laps down. So I will say, though, Corey Vincent is, of course, your leader, but Ryan Michael Luza, he came in early. His current stint time is in the ballpark of 14 laps, where Ray Alfala only has 9 laps on his tires, so just about 7 or 8 laps longer Ryan Michael Luza has been out, or actually more like 5 or 6. Don't worry, we're good at math here, but either way, Ryan Michael Luza has, he always seems to be short pitting when it comes to these types of races, and he always seems to be the one that's just pulling just a little bit ahead. And we got to remember, though, these people, I think it's getting to the point that we're really starting to commit to a long green flag run. That's exactly what we want to see. Last thing I think we would want is a caution, but once we make it through that first full stint, cars start getting spread out, and that's what you want to see. Everyone's used to old tires, everyone's used to new tires, everyone's used to traffic. So hopefully this thing will continue to go green, and we'll see here if Ryan Michaeluza can chase down that 2.6 second gap to the leader, Corey Vincent.
Battle for the number 4 position is going to go into favor of actually Ray Alfala, who's going to take over third. He kind of leapfrogged a fight for third at the time between Michael Conti and Derek Bordeaux. That now becomes a fight for fourth and fifth. The fresher tires on the number 2 Ford made pretty quick work of those guys at the outside of the racetrack, and as Alfala tries to close in on the guys up front, Conti and Bordeaux are going to continue to fight behind him. Just taking a look for more drivers trying to work through the field on fresh tires as we go side by side for fourth. Here comes Duval, now stuck behind this side-by-side battle. Does he force a 3 wide, or does he wait? He'll take the latter of the options, very patient with Bordeaux, who's significantly slower on older tires. That's going to really hurt the 42, though, because he is chasing down Ray Alfala.
And Duval had a huge run in the middle of 1 and 2 and couldn't put it anywhere. Had to back off the throttle just a wee bit to not get in to the 04 of Derek Bordeaux. He now passes that 04 car, and the 5 moves him to position number 4, and he'll set his sights on Ray Alfala, albeit he's got about 2 seconds or so between himself and that number 2 car. Ryan Luza continues to chip in on that lead. Now about 2.1 seconds between himself and Corey Vincent up in front. But there's small little battles throughout this field. Looks like Brad Davies has found his way to the back bumper of Michael Conti. Davies having a great run so far this evening. He's been in the top 10 for the most part of this one after working up from position 18. He'll look at the lower rear quarter of the number 5, Michael Conti.
Yeah, Conti's had a busy night. I think that things have worked out pretty good for him at this moment inside of this cycle of pit stops and how this has really spread everybody else in traffic. But him and Davies have been locked together ever since they left the pit lane. They continue to fight. This time the 11, big advantage inside in 3 and 4, and they'll swap it up once more. Brad Davies wins the battle for 6th position, and I believe the 04 into the fence in front of him. It was problems with Derek Bordeaux. Pretty hard contact into the outside fence at a corner 4. It drops him back to these guys and maybe damage that car enough to hurt its run.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen. You can see that right front tire now. It's it's nearly exposed on that entire right side, plus some damage. Pretty much the entire right side of that car is crinkled in and damaged it into some degree, and I believe that is really going to affect him, as even in the draft, he barely hit 200 miles an hour, where the car behind him of Michael Conti was, well, actually just under a little bit 200, so perhaps maybe not. As we see Nicholas Johnston, he is ripping right on through, but I believe he has just pitted not that long ago, maybe 5 or 6 laps, so that's no surprise there. But for Derek Bordeaux, it's going to be pretty tough. He had really worked his way through the entire field, and now he's going to have to put himself onto the defensive and try to keep that Ford Fusion together.
And that pit stop by Johnson, his 2nd on the night, so he's a lap down, actually 2 laps down. Obviously with the fresher tires working his way through, as we're talking about all of the action going on in and around that number 5 peak Ford of Michael Conti. Now as good as the time is in it to remind you that this portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Peak Antifreeze and Coolant, the official antifreeze of NASCAR, and a proud sponsor of the 2017 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing. Interesting scenario here. Side-by-side battles, none of which are for position. Fresh tires, 27, 83, 21, all trying to work their way by. Ray Alfala, though, has finally made it back to the top of the scoring pylon. Fresh tires going to make his way back by short pitter Corey Vincent. Finally takes the lead back in this race. Over 20 laps, though, after he gave it up when he pitted.
The lap before, he was almost a second quicker than Corey Vincent was Ray Alfala. He takes the lead, and you can see Ryan Luza continuing to chip in to the gap that he has between himself and Corey Vincent. I think you'll see Ryan Luza get up here in a couple laps time and make that move on the 10, but we talked about the pit strategy. Corey Vincent pitted a little bit earlier than some of these drivers he's currently racing now for position. it might be close for Corey Vincent to start coming down or thinking about coming down pit road for that second stop of the evening as we are working lap number 60, around a 30-35 lap run. If you pit it at that time, you're probably thinking about coming down and getting some new rubber and some fuel in the race car.
And that goes to the point that we made earlier, is every discrepancy is going to be multiplied every time we go through another cycle. You pit at lap 30 the first time, it's maybe 10 laps sooner than somebody who pits at lap 40. But then if you do the same length the next time, you're pitting at 60 instead of 80, and then lap 90 instead of 120. And that's how you'll see drivers in this race, at least it appears, based on how many drivers we've seen short pitting compared to seeing how many drivers have stayed out to this point. Therefore, those are the people who are starting to get back up front. Alfala and Duval and company are the people who pitted at the ladder of that opening stint, and they're starting to get cycled back to the front. That's how you find people with completely different pit strategies, and it's going to be something that we're going to have to keep an eye on tonight, because Ray Alfala has gotten to the lead. I would expect him to stay out for maybe another 18 laps, but for a Corey Vincent in that 10, he can't stay out as long. He pitted 7 laps before Ray Alfala did, so the 10's going to have to pit much sooner than he did, and that's going to continue to multiply as the night goes on. Ryan Luza, another driver, fresher tires, picks up the spot from the 10, and for the first time, we've got people back on that same strategy, 1-2. Let's see if Luza can do anything with that Ray Alfala, though. That gap is 2 seconds. In fact, the 1, pretty big winner on the cycle of pit stops, because he's been able to get in front of Dylan Duval, as we noted, who got caught up with some lap traffic.
Yeah, and Ryan Michael Luza, his tires are 4 laps older than Ray Alfala, and he is still chasing him down. He's running about maybe 2-3 tenths of a second slower each lap, but that was going through all the traffic. Corey Vincent, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't come in the next time by, and if not this time, it will be the time after this as Dylan Duval goes to his inside. He pitted on lap 32. And obviously, he is now running right now on 31 laps ran right to his point. So if he is going to continue to do 32 lap stints, he should be coming in this time by. I almost think that he's starting to disengage as he's finding himself going 3 wide with lap traffic, trying to go on through. Tyler Hill almost losing it, the number 9 car, as I wouldn't be surprised if Corey's just trying to disengage and trying to see if he can actually enter pit lane. Maybe he'll just stay out an extra lap or 2. No worries there on fuel or anything like that. So he's just trying to keep the car together. Nope, he's going to stay on out, but it wouldn't surprise me too much if we don't start seeing those cars come on in and early. Also because I absolutely love this part. It's Ford leading a Chevy, leading a Toyota. So of course, you got to remember the manufacturer parts out there. I'm sure somebody's interested in that.
Something else that kind of gets brought up as we watch this 9 try to get through. Tyler Hill still trying to find a way through all this traffic on the fresher tires. Is just how difficult it is to get onto the pit lane here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. A lot of tracks you have a little bit more apron to work with. The inside fence isn't right there at many of these places, but that wall's no more than maybe 5 feet to the left of where you're trying to line things up to come down to the pit lane. If you're going to use the apron to slow down, you got to get down in the center of the corner, and the ideal entry means that you're braking basically on the racetrack and diving down the hill to get on the pit road, which is why it's so critical for these drivers to be on the radio with guys. That's how we get sometimes a half a lap heads up. We say someone's going to be pitting and they do. It's because the drivers are on the radio or they're in the text chat letting the guys around them know, hey, I'm coming down pit road, keep an eye out for me. And most of the time, that means we get to avoid incidents. As we take a look at the battle now for second, Dylan Duval's 42 is caught back up to Luza and got that spot back. So he's back to where he was before pit stops in second.
And he had to fight for that spot, and Trey Edson in the 24 trying to make his way through on the fresher tires. So a couple of different things that they had to watch in that battle for position number 2 as they duked it out for that lead lap spot. Corey Vincent came down a couple laps ago and navigated that tough pit entry, and so far so good for him. Meanwhile, up in front continues to be Ray Alfala, leading this thing by 3.7 seconds. He'll come out of corner number 4 this time, remain on the racetrack, and complete lap number 68 on the racetrack. It looks like Zach Novak has a little bit of company behind him with Kenny Humpy, but for the most part in the top 5, everybody's found a place to race right now until they hit that next pit stop.
20 drivers on the lead lap. Again, we have already seen a couple of drivers down pit road for a second time, although not as many. As we get to lap 70, I think now we're really going to start to see the pit window start to open wide up. Again, I think the objective is going to be a four-stop strategy here tonight. At least that's what the guys up front are doing. That's what Ray Alfalo's doing, and that's what has him at a 3.7-second advantage. Duval is second. We've got Luza up to third. Zach Novak's been able to find himself right where he was when we just noted the last time that he was the biggest mover of the drivers inside of the top 10, going 15th to 4th. He has picked up one more position that DeMarcus Richardson has, who started 20th and runs in the number 9 position at the moment, also inside of the top 10. But somebody else just a little bit further back that is having a great start to this one, Tim, through all of the green flag action. The 22 of Brian Blackford started in 28th position. He's one spot shy of the top 10, runs 11th at the moment.
And this is a hornet's nest. Brad Davies in the grass. We're 3 wide down into corner number 1, and he'll pass Shearburn and Conti. I believe that's Chalner in there as well. We got some guys that are cutting through this field like a hot knife through butter. And man, oh man, some 3 wide racing and some close calls. But you mentioned it, Brian Blackford having a very solid run in car number 22. As you mentioned, started in 28th, up into the top 10 or just outside the top 10 as they continue to work around here. This is that time where guys are starting to come down onto pit road. You got some slower traffic that is still on the racetrack as Ray Alfalo has Brandon Schmidt to the inside, and he's got the 39, I believe that is, of Michael Johnson also passing him. He's got some anxious moments around him right now as he gets ready to make his next pit stop.
And many people think that green flag races have some sort of a calmness to it, and there is a little bit of a point to where that's true. It's a lot less chaotic than, restarting this, dumping them up, and doing that over and over and over again. But I would say more races than not, Cam, when we have an opportunity, especially tonight with that little bit of extra distance that we talked about. But anytime a race goes green and you've got people thinking about pit strategy, things are always chaotic when you're under green flag conditions. You got the guy up on top of the box telling you what the strategy is, what the strategy of the other cars are, and how's it working out. Should we change strategy? Should we keep on doing it? You got the guy up on top of the spotter stand letting you know where the fast traffic is, where the slow traffic is. There is a lot of communication that has to go into successfully navigating a race like this. Over the radio, though, Ryan Luza says that he will be coming into pit road from 5th position at lap number 74, and he does slow that machine down to bring it in this time. So keep an eye for the likes of Alfalo, Duval, Humpy, and Novak, the 4 drivers who were in front of him, to maybe take notice of that come down pit road.
Yeah, as Corey Vincent was doing 32 lap stints, this is right on the money for 40 full laps around Charlotte Motor Speedway as Ryan Michael loses number 1. He'll pull into his pit stall. I've seen quite a couple of cars slide their pit stall, but he does not. He stops it just as we expect him to, and he will get his service. Obviously, 4 tires and off and away, whereas Ray Alfalo right now, he is currently running 36 laps on his stint, as well as pretty much everybody going back to position number 8, all as 36 laps. They all pitted in one massive group, so it wouldn't surprise me if that doesn't happen again. Let's see where Ryan Michael Luza will come out in his Ford Fusion. Looks like he's going to come out perhaps just behind Andrew Fayesh the third. Looks like will he be able to slot on in? He'll slide in the 10th position as they continue their way around.
And compared to Ray Alfalo, who's off down in 1 and 2 on the racetrack at the moment, it's about a lap and a half, which is how the drivers who come down to the pit lane lose a lap. It takes about a lap and a half of track distance to be able to come down pit road and to be able to get back out onto the racetrack. So while he blended up, with that 77 of Fayash, he blends up on the racetrack 20th and 1 lap down. So now he'll have the tire advantage to the tune of a fair amount of seconds. The last lap that Ryan Luza ran on that last stint before he decided to come down to the pit lane was a 30.7. Last time by on fresh tires, a 27.9. That is a big difference between fresh and old rubber.
Yeah, that's a huge difference when it comes to on-track time and where we stand after these pit stops, but we'll see where Ryan Luza will fall through and fall out when everybody does decide to come down pit road. Ray Alfalo stays on the racetrack, Dylan Duval, Kenny Humpy among those that are still staying on the racetrack and trying to get to at least lap 80, and if that's what they're trying to do, 40 lap stints, we should see these guys down within the next 2 laps or so as Alfalo gets passed by looks like Adam Gilliland in car number 8, one of those first drivers that decided to come down pit road. We've seen Aftermath Motorsports win a race here before on pit strategy, Evan. Remember back a couple of years ago when Alex Warren went to victory lane, played some pit strategy, then played some late race restarts, and ended up winning this race. I think that's what they're trying to do again, trying to parlay a little bit of pit strategy into this.
And a lot of drivers down pit road this time. Cody Bias came over the radio from 5th and said pitting. And after that, about 6 or 7 other drivers jumped on the radio and said that they are all going to be coming down pit road as well. So you've got a big influx of drivers from the top 10 who are coming down to the pit lane. Ray Alfala in the 2. Still staying out through the lap number 80 marker. Don't expecting that 2 machine would stay out much longer than this. In fact, I think he should have been the next time by based on his numbers on the first stint. We'll see.
Yeah, he really does need to start coming in. I think the lap times are starting to really fade away from him. And just looking at some of the lap times, he's running a 29.8. Let me see, I can find Ryan Michaeluza, who's already moved himself up to 7th position. He is running 28 flats, and here comes Ray Alfala. I'm afraid that the time is not there. He should be coming out behind Ryan Michaeluza because the gap was about 36 seconds when he came in, and that is about the entire length, the stop, and the rejoining onto pit lane. So I will have a feeling that Ray Alfala and Dylan Duval will be both giving up their leads respectively, as Dylan Duval was way ahead of Ray Alfala. Not quite sure when they did that exchange. Perhaps Alfala had to disengage to get himself safely onto pit lane, but that number 2 car is going to be finishing his service, and this lead is going to go once again to Corey Vincent. And if Corey Vincent, this has happened twice now, Evan, where Corey Vincent gets about a 10-15 lap gap where he is the leader because of his pit strategy. Could that number 10 team have something up their sleeve where they time this correctly through the green flag stops? It's a bit actually hard to predict full race time with the weather that you have, with the traffic that you have, pit cycles. Could they have planned this out to where during that little 10-lap gap that they have the lead? That would be the finish of the race. We'll have to find out. But for Corey Vincent, though, very interesting how they're working this strategy right now. Once again, in charge of the race.
And there's 2 different things that he and other drivers who have been pitted at about the same times that he's been doing could be thinking. One is an extra pit stop. So if the drivers who have been going 40 laps a stint go 40 laps a stint, then they can make this race on 4 stops. If these guys want to eliminate a stop, do shorter stints, but you get out there with fresh tires more often, you could do it maybe on 5 stops. You would have to account for about that 45 seconds that it would cost you to take the extra pit stop. That's getting down to speed, driving down to the pit lane, getting the car service, getting back out there and getting back up to speed. If you feel like fresh tires can make up for the time that an extra pit stop would do, then they're going to go for it. The other thing they could be doing, Tim, is Corey Vincent's first stint was substantially shorter than his second stint. That second stint with about that 40 lap, he just pitted much sooner on the first one, so after 40 laps, he had ended up pitting a little bit before lap number 80. What that could mean is that Corey Vincent is still going to do a 4-stop strategy. He just shortened up the first one a little bit to get him a little bit off cycle with Ray Alfala. He led Ray Alfala. Alfala eventually caught up to him and passed him. So the idea behind that strategy would be this period right now. As Corey Vincent has pitted, so has everybody else, but they have yet to catch him. He would then try to line this up with the end of the race, hopefully, to get the start finished on in the checkered flag before they would catch back up to him after what would be the final stops.
And as we keep going in this run, the probability of a caution flag that could throw everything off continues to rise. You've got guys on different strategies. You've got guys on new tires cutting through the pack. For example, Ray Alfala, who's making his way through and trying to get back up into the top 5. A little bit behind him, you have Nick Johnston trying to cut through the pack as well. He and Michael Conti nearly had a moment a couple laps ago as they try to weave their way through the field. If something does happen, that somebody makes one little small mistake, that caution flag comes out, and we're back to a different strategy call, and maybe Corey Vincent ends up with the lead position and gets a little bit of track position out of it. So I'm sure that that's what they're looking at too, because there's a lot of close quarter racing. Derek Bordeaux is side by side with Nick Johnston. Dylan Duval is trying to cut through this pack, as is Zach Novak, and these guys are going 3 wide at a corner number 4. They get it back to 2 on the exit of 4, but there's been a couple of close calls here with some of these drivers on new tires.
Nolan Scott, who runs right now at 11th, just got split by Johnson, who runs in 40th position. And then you've got a 3-way battle for position. Duval, Novak, and Bordeaux. In front of him will take the 42. The upper hand in this one is going to catch Blake Reynolds and Michael Conti, who run 7th and 6th respectively. Again, those two drivers have also pitted twice tonight, but they pitted a little bit earlier, so now they are at the tire disadvantage. You see the 15 also following through on fresher tires. So not to forget that there is a battle for position, not to separate those guys who are on a different strategy from each other because they're all lead lap positions, but there's two different fights. You have to take it in context. You know, Dylan Duval is not fighting with Michael Conti at the moment. They're on different strategies. They're going to let the strategy, I think, determine where they end up at the end of this race. Who Dylan Duval is fighting with is Ray Alfala, who's about 2 seconds in front of him. That has remained rather constant. But remember, Duval was 3rd before the first trip down to the pit lane. He was able to jump up to that number 2 position after having some problems off of the pit lane and everything. Now he's starting to get back within that 2-second range of Alfala, maybe a little bit cleaner on this most recent cycle. That's who he has to set his eyes on. He's going to pass Kenny Humpy. Once they catch up to the likes of Luza and Davies and Vincent, who are inside of the top 3, they're going to pass them because they have fresher tires. They're just going to get around them. They're quicker. But he has to remember the driver who he's fighting with in his strategy is that 2, and somewhere you're going to have to make up time.
Yeah, and Bobby Zelensky, that number 83 Ford, he actually almost just split 4 wide through this pack. It's all single file running now, but it wasn't just about a lap and a half ago. It was heavy traffic running right on through. Some of the cars just a little slow, some of the cars just a little quick, and we have a caution out on the track. Not quite sure where just yet, but I think this is a common statement. This changes everything. Looks like it's the number 25 Chevrolet of Will Cooley.
He's spun around on the back straightaway. First caution flying tonight at lap number 91. And it happened with that lap traffic that we were talking about so much. Faster car, the 34 Matt Bussa was lined up to come off the high side. You take a look at a RaceSpotTV replay. The much slower 25 slid up in front of him. Bussa tried to go low because he was about 10 miles an hour quicker. Got that car to shape, snapped it up the hill, and he hooks Will Cooley around. The 25 goes for a spin. Caution flag is out, and now that completely changes the strategy. It's going to put everybody back on an even foot as we would expect these race leaders back down to the pit lane. And Tim, you got to chalk up the strategy as they win. Corey Vincent, Ryan Luza, and Brad Davies. Sure, Ray Alfala's going to be right behind him in 4th, but they started 7th, 10th, and 18th. The guys behind him started 5th, 2nd, and 1st. Their strategy, based on when this caution flag comes out, they win.
I think the biggest strategy advantage is going to go to Brad Davies. You mentioned 18th place, but Corey Vincent, before that lap 30-ish stop to kick it off, he was in the top 5, so whether it was a mistake on his part, maybe he got his tires angry on him on the first run, whatever the case may be, Vincent is now on even keel, or can be, with the rest of this field. As here they go down pit road, and we'll see who comes out first and where they do shake out. But with just over 100 laps to go, this is a new opportunity for some of those guys to get on the same strategy as Ray Alfala and the others that were slicing their way through the field.
Pretty big gap between Vincent and Luza and Davies, and then a pretty big gap between Davies and Alfala as a couple of lap cars were riding behind the pace car in between your race leaders. The 10 should be in a pretty good spot to be able to retain the race lead off for the pit lane. He's going to get some of the right side damage fixed on the Herculiner Chevrolet. He's also going to get 4 tires and fuel. Drag race off of pit road. Vincent barely going to hang on to that one over Ryan Luza, who had a fantastic 4-tire stop.
Yeah, a couple of beaten and banged just a little bit. I think Michael Conti brushed the inside of Cody Bias coming off of that, and there was a pretty tough battle between Brad Davies and Ray Alfala as well. Good dragging off of the pit lane, but Corey Vincent, he did have that strategy working out. I didn't know if it was in his favor or not, but it was an alternate strategy, and he did have the option there. But now, well, he's got a lead on pace. Everyone's got brand spanking new tires. Everyone's going to be packed as tightly together as you can imagine, and we're going to have a restart here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, so we'll have to see here when we pack them all like a can of sardines if they can manage to make this work. They should. They had done this once before when the race started, Evan, but you never know. We've got a little bit more damaged cars. We've got some cars that are going to be perhaps looking to really improve their positions on this restart, as we all know they really haven't had the opportunity to jump positions as they had until this lap number 94 caution.
Tell you what, though, it's a great way to get this race kicked off with over 90 laps of consecutive green flag action, and now basically we ignore, the fact that this is a 200-lap race, and at this point it's a 100-lap race. Nothing else from the beginning matters. If your strategy cost you some spots, if your strategy gained you some spots, you kind of put that in your back pocket, you move on. A whole new race now as we get set to reset things just shy of the halfway point, not quite yet at lap number 100. When we do get to that point and crossover, we'll take an opportunity to take a look at your iRacing at a midway race break. But a couple of positions shuffle up towards the front for this restart. Ray Alfala leapfrogs in front of Brad Davies, so he will be third for the restart. Kenny Humpy is going to maintain the number 5 spot. You got Zach Novak, Dylan Duval, Bobby Zelensky, Michael Conti, and Cody Bias inside of the top 10 as we get set to come back into green flag conditions. Also, a couple of drivers still somewhat fresh off of pit stops. Again, your race leaders did come down, not necessarily for the fuel, although it could be a factor. It may be changing the strategy for about the 102 or 3 laps we'll have to go when we take the green flag. Could maybe trick somebody into a 2 or 3 stop split, but a couple of drivers who did not decide to come down for the fuel to get a lap back are going to get waved around. So Will Cooley in 33rd, Alex Bergeron in 34th, and Timmy Hill in 35th, all going to get back up to the lead lap, which will give us obviously a 35-car lead pack for the restart as the lights go out.
Couple drivers just outside the top 10 I want to take a look at when we go green and when we get a couple of laps in. Blake Reynolds started 31st. He's all the way up to position number 12. He'll start on the outside of row number 6, and a couple of spots behind him is Nolan Scott. Nolan Scott had a top 5 finish earlier this season in his return to the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. He was one of those drivers that was falling back and really hoping for a caution flag, which he got. If he didn't get this caution flag, Evan, he might have been outside the top 30 with the way the strategy was working. So we talked about a Corey Vincent up front getting saved by the caution. Nolan Scott got saved too, just a little bit deeper in the pack.
Couple of drives, half of the cycle on through, but again, we hit the reset button. We're going to go back into green flag conditions with 96 laps complete. Still 104 laps to go tonight from Charlotte. Green flag flies back underway as we extinguish the one and only caution flag we've had so far to this point. Race leader Corey Vincent, control car, going to take off to turn 1, side by side for second. Ray Alfala back in this and on the hunt with a big run out of turn number 2.
Track had the opportunity just a little bit to cool off as here he comes running in the inside is Ray Alfala. They did have a little bit of a bottleneck about position 10 back, but they managed to sort that all out and work themselves through as everyone's still basically side by side as we complete our first green flag lap since that caution. And Ray Alfala, we'll see, will he be able to get the push? And Ryan Michaeluza, after starting in 10th position and through almost 100 laps of racing, has worked himself to right behind Zach Novak. He seems to have some speed as well. He's leaning his Toyota Camry to the inside of Ryan Michaeluza, forcing him to take that high side line. Of course, I feel that high side line probably will come in a couple laps' time. Corey Vincent, though, has already slid back to 4th position and maybe getting where is Kenny Humpy working his inside.
Tell you what, though, the one of Michaeluza and the 2 of Alfala were putting it to him on for the restart. Those guys were hustling, and Ray Alfala is able to get back to the race lead. And now the quickest battle, closest to the top of the field for that matter, is for 4th. Corey Vincent topside, trying to defend against Kenny Humpy. They're side by side at 3 and 4. Herculano Chevrolet on the outside, the Simcraft Chevrolet on the inside. And at one end of the racetrack, the top looked better for the 10. At that end of the racetrack, the bottom looked better for the 58. And Humpy's got him, single filing out the top 6 or so, back off the 1.
And just in front of them, Novak takes a look underneath Ryan Luza for position number 2. Down the back straightaway, Luza gets the run off of corner number 2, but Novak set it up going down into corner number 1. Just could not get the run off. He'll fall back to 3rd for the time being. Continues to be side by side around the teammates as looks like Cody Bias is tucked in behind Dylan Duval. They have Brad Davies in the 21 of Alan Bowes to the outside. Nice little 4-car battle just behind the 10 of Corey Vincent, who continues to fall back and is now a part of this battle is Duval on the bumper of the 10 at a corner number 2. That was a close call.
And they're still packed in there. 2 drivers on the inside, 3 or 4 of them on the outside, and now the 5 going to go to the bottom. Duval almost trying to push Corey Vincent at a turn number 4, trying to get that inside lane going. Not going to help, though. 2 drivers clear topside. Davies and Bowes going to get in front of the 10.
And continuing this good racing, a lot of cars staying side by side much longer than we had thought. Zach Novak is still working with Ryan Michaeluza. I was going to say this is going to allow Ray Alfala to be able to pull away, but it is just not in the cards as they are able to keep each other all well and tight as they're once again hitting those speeds, almost 204 miles an hour as they continue pushing into corner number 1. Zach Novak, he does seem to have the speed, but Ryan Michaeluza just seems to have that outside line down pat. There's a little bit of a gap though between 1, 2, 3 and then Cunny Humpy and then Bobby Zelensky before you really get into a very large pack, everyone in single file line with Brad Davies and Alan Bowes. Alan Bowes trying the outside line, seeing if that can work.
And this brings us back to what we saw at the start of this race. Just fantastic racing, plenty of funning going on inside of the top 10, and that continues on for this restart. A little bit further back, the 74 machine of Taylor Hurst started 40th. He's inside of the top 20 now, just got around the 55 of Schoenberg, trying to fight with the 41 of Jake Sturgis, so plenty of fighting going on. Not exclusive to the top 10, this fight is for 16th and 17th as they go 3 wide. The 39 of Johnston trying to get a nose to the inside.
Battles all over this racetrack. Dylan Duval takes a look at the 11 of Brad Davies, just ahead of that little battle you were talking about. Michael Conti. Looks like the 27 and the 10 continue to fall back here on this run. Conti looking at the 10, pushing him down the straightaway, trying to get that to work. Close little battles all throughout this pack. Meanwhile, Ryan Luza has caught Ray Alfala once again at the front of the field, pouring a little bit of pressure on him as they go through and complete lap 105. We are now in the second half of the longest race of the season, and Ray Alfala picking up where he left off at Richmond a couple of weeks ago, still in the lead, looking for his second win of the season.
And on that note, let's take this opportunity to take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races at virtual tracks all around the world. And in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is your one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, World of Outlaws, and many more. Ray Alfala is your race leader at lap number 107. Just hanging on with Ryan Luza right in the mix at number 1. Runs in second, and Zach Novak just behind him in third, all in a battle for the race lead. Kenny Humpy has been a part of the battle up front much of the night. He's trying to stay a part of the conversation, half a second off the top spot as he runs in second spot. Bobby Zelensky just a little bit further back in fifth position. Alan Bowes right there with him, running in sixth spot, 1 second off of the race lead. And Dylan Duval, your pole sitter, who has led many laps tonight, trying to recover after losing some distance in the last 50 laps or so. He has scored in 7th. Brad Davies having a good night just behind him. The 11 scored in 8th position. Michael Conti side by side with 9th. Cody Bias right there with him in P10.
Corey Vincent, he started on the restart there in position number 1. He's dropped back to 11th position. And with Derek Bordeaux pursuing in the 12th position. Blake Reynolds, he is in 13th after starting 31st. He's inverted the numbers with Jake Nichols in 14th. It'll be Brian Blackford. He'll be running in the 15th position, and Taylor Hurst fighting him hard for 16th. Nolan Scott's running 17th, and then a very large gap back into 18th in the rest of the field of Brian Schoenberg, 4.7 seconds behind. Andrew Fayosh, he's in the 19th position, and then 20th position goes to Jake Sturgis.
And that might change here in the next lap because Chandler Krizik is taking a look underneath Jake Sturgis. They go side by side for what is the 20th place position. Behind them in position number 22 is Michael Johnson. Marcus Richardson will be scored ahead of Chris Sherburne as they come across the stripe. Brandon Schmidt, barely a part of this little pack. He's sitting in 25th. Phil Diaz just took a spot from Christian Chalner, moved Chalner back to 27th. Casey Tucker, the 28, runs in 28th place. Matt Busa in at 29th, and completing your top 30 is David Rattler, but he has a battle on his hands.
The guys towards the end of this lead lap, not in quite as particular situations as the guys up front. The 31st position is Adam Gilliland. Now you start to talk about double-digit seconds off of the lead. 32nd for Alex Bergeron, 33rd for Trey Ensign, and Timmy Hill is the final driver, scored on the lead lap in 34th position. A couple of drivers lurking just a few laps down. Drivers 1 lap down include 35th Byron Daly, 36th Ryan Lowe, and 37th Josh Berry. You've also got Will Cooley, Nicholas Johnson, and Tyler Hill, 38th, 39th, and 40th position. Still on the racetrack and still in this thing. The drivers out of this race for all intent and purposes. 5 laps down, Nick Ottinger is 41st. 16 laps down, Jimmy Willis is 42nd. And 75 laps down, and PJ Sturgis is scored in 43rd. Caution to fly, going to fly right on that note.
Brian Schoenberg, I was watching this great battling going on for position 19. Jake Sturgis pulled to the inside of Brian Schoenberg, and he ended up, I believe, Schoenberg got a little tight coming off the corner. Perhaps he nipped the rear of Jake Sturgis. That sent him slow, and once he got slow, Michael J. Johnson was there. Marcus Richardson had nowhere to go, so as the 55 of Brian Schoenberg and Marcus Richardson, they're going to bring out our second caution of the day.
Schoenberg got crowded. I mean, you can take a look at the scene, but a racetrack 55 didn't come down on the 41 at all. Just Sturgis made a late move to the inside, trying to get back to the gas, and got the left front of the 55, and I think it slowed down Schoenberg enough to where that 39 of Johnson, who was lurking, tapped him at a left rear quarter panel, and then if that wasn't bad enough, as Schoenberg was trying to hang on, there was nowhere for Marcus Richardson to go, and the pinball in turn number 2 is the 55 Pro Geek Ford of Schoenberg, who ends up around for the second caution on the night.
Yeah, tough break for Brian Schoenberg as he's been bounced around a couple of teams, teammate with Michael Conti now, and they're going to have some work to do on that car down on pit road if they want to get it back out onto the racetrack. Ray Alfala and crew coming down onto pit road. Luza, Novak, Zielinski, and the rest of these front-running drivers coming down on pit road on lap 115 as Alfala hits his box. I'm sure this might change a little bit of strategy too if we do get some green flag racing in.
In an interesting spot, about 6 or so laps prior to when we thought people would pit if they were implementing that 4-stop strategy earlier. Is this pit stop enough to make you be able to be close enough to the end of this race to do it on 1 stop from this point? Alfala first, loses second, side by side for third off, but Zach Novak going to squeak that one out in front of Bobby Zielinski. Bo's going to come off 5th, Duval, Humpy, Davies, and Bias. The top 9 or so drivers as they cycle out of the pit lane. And this is a great opportunity, as we were talking about a couple of those drivers laps down, to get back to the lead lap. Lowe, Barry, and Cooley, I believe all 3 drivers who were scored a lap down have now stayed out to receive a wave by when this thing gets back away, so that'll add to the number of cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, it absolutely will. The front runners, by the way, I have to still say the 2016 Pro drivers are doing very, very well for themselves. I mean, you've got Ryan Michaeluza, Zach Novak, and Bobby Zielinski running in there. Well, we're going to have to re-rack them and restack them. But either way, though, this is just going to reset once again. I think everyone's pretty much just going to plan for 1 additional pit stop after this. We're probably going to get going maybe lap 118, maybe lap 119, as we're following that iRacing.com Ford Mustang pace car, which means that, well, maybe even lap 1, yeah, maybe 1 lap 18. Let's say 118. Some guys will probably do 30, some will, I can't see people doing 40. I think we're just going to start getting to the point where people are just planning for the next caution, and that's concerning. I was going to say, when I saw the cars hustling off of pit road, nobody was really scrapping with each other like we saw that first pit stop. I almost wonder if they don't see some dark clouds on the horizon.
But it is a cloudy one here, and I will note that, you know, if they were to try to make this thing on 1 more stop, you'd have to go about 42, 43 per run. And I would say that if there's a caution, that would require you saving some gas. But I think if we see a yellow at this point, everybody's just going to be coming down pit road anyway. So the chances of this race going green from this point to the end, much less than it was when we dropped the green flag much earlier on. Late race cautions, break cautions, it's just the way it is. And this might be a little bit of a scrap through the remaining of this one. Gilliland going to drop down to the pit lane. It's going to put Ray Alfala back to the point. Then look at our iRacing, a bit of a race break just before the caution flag came out, was brought to you by iRacing. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can go to iRacing.com and sign up today. And for a limited time, go to iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of some exclusive promo codes. You can get yourself a 1-year iRacing membership for over 50% off, or if you just want to give iRacing a try, you can get a 3-month membership for just $4.78. It's as easy as that. That is a limited time only, and that is also a promotion that is available to new iRacing members only. Again, that is iRacing.com /World of Outlaws. So this restart now going to come with 83 laps to go in this race, as this one slowly starts to wind down, but at a slower pace than it did when we went uninterrupted for the opening 91 laps of contest. Now, Fallaloza going to make up row 1, Novak and Zelensky on row 2. Bose and Duval going to be back on row 3. You've got Humpy Bias, row 4, and Vincent and Bordeaux to round out through the top 10. Pace car back off and away. Ray Alfala in control, sits on it for a brief moment, comes to take the green flag, and a good jump for your race leader. Car length advantage to 1.
And Luza has the opportunity to go down to the inside. Behind him, it's side-by-side Zelensky and Novak going to go toe-to-toe as Novak tries to pull that inside line. Zelensky on the outside. They'll drag race down the back straightaway, and Alan Bose is now a part of the top 5 and a part of this battle in the second half of the race. Bose seems to save everything and try to make it happen in that second half. It looks like he's doing it now, battling for position number 3.
Third spot up for grabs, 83-21 top side, and a 15 trying to play spoiler on the inside of the racetrack. That most recent caution flag brought us to the number of 33 drivers still scored on the lead lap, and a lot of them are double file. That battle for third is going on. Battle a little bit further back with Dylan Duval and Cody Bias for 7th is side by side. They're side by side for 9th. They're side by side for 11th. A lot going on in 3 and 4.
Surprised Ray Alfala's been able to pull the gap that he's able to pull for the second restart in a row now, where the Ryan Michaeluza really not being able to do anything. Zach Novak seemed to have been his antagonist, and we have another caution out on the track. Not what you want to see. I see Will Cooley with some damage on the inside, but that's surely not the full of the story here. It actually looks like this happened a little bit further up. It's Brian Schoenberg once again, I have a feeling.
Couple of drivers involved in this one. Cooley's already had problems tonight. I think this one started with Schoenberg and went to Josh Berry. You take a second look, the 55 of Schoenberg up into the outside wall at a turn 4, got squeezed. That car got really loose, and the 88 tried to go topside, and it was actually that sharp move by Berry got that car out of shape. He got into the 55, that spun him down through the grass, and when you pop back up like that into 1, nothing good can come from it. And in fact, the 25 spins just from simply locking up the tires. The big piece of contact comes courtesy of Marcus Richardson, who takes out the 88.
So a tough break for those drivers, bringing out the caution flag once again. And we mentioned some of those names. Some of those names have been involved in a couple of cautions this evening so far. Definitely not their night, but trying to get something out of these remaining 80 laps of this race. Pit road will be open this time by, but we just came down pit road a couple laps ago, so most of these front runners are going to stay out on the racetrack. The one thing that I'm seeing on this pattern is that we saw the teammates fall back a little bit on the green flag run that we had at the opening segment of this race. They start at 1, 2, 3, Dylan Duval, Kenny Humpy, and Cody Bias, and now they're lurking outside the top 5. They're in 6th, 7th, and 8th respectively. Could this be a couple of short runs here that the team needs to get back up into the top 5 and maybe for some of them try to win their first race of the year and push them a little further up the standings?
Well, something that we noted a couple of weeks ago, not as necessarily prominent now, but it was the fact that we had gone the opening 5 races with only 1 race being won by a driver that had raced in this series prior to 2017. That was Alan Bose with his win from Texas. Rookies Derek Bordeaux and Ryan Luza have won 4 of the 6 races. As we noted earlier tonight, we've seen 4 different winners so far this season. Bordeaux, Luza, Bose, Zelensky, and Alfala on that list as well. Now, if you count Richmond as of a couple of weeks ago. But the championship standings into tonight. Again, if you're just joining us, the top 8 is where we're going to be looking at all season long. This tonight marks the entrance, and I guess the crossing of the halfway point in the regular season of these opening 12 races. You got to make the top 8 to make the playoff. Luza, Alfala, Zelensky, Clampett, Bordeaux, Novak, Richardson, and Vincent. Those top 8 into tonight. Something else to note that we haven't necessarily brought up, but I know is somewhat common knowledge in this race. If you're looking around and looking for Logan Clampett, not here tonight, which could be a big hindrance on his hopes of qualifying for the championship.
Yeah, not only that, but our return to chat is missing him, surely. But I will point out, though, what this does allow is some other drivers to start to kind of force their way through the field through sheer virtue of getting good starts. I will say, just looking through the previous winners, we've only got 2 in attendance, and that's Nick Ottinger from 2012 and Kenny Humpy last year winning this race. So we'll see exactly who can come out here. I mean, if Kenny Humpy, he is in the fight. Nick Ottinger, though, he had some issues earlier on, 4 laps down, but Kenny could too, Pete. But we've got just so much speed between Ray Alfalla and a lot of these new pro drivers that I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see somebody that has not yet won here at Charlotte Motor Speedway to come away with it. And to just throw this out as well, what better race to have than for our halfway point than Charlotte Motor Speedway?
Just to tease some of the upcoming stuff on this 2017 campaign, Pocono could be the next track we go to. In fact, something interesting I wanted to note is it's going to be a while until we come back to a 1.5 mile track. The lights go out on top of the pace car. We're going to go green the next time by, but we have Pocono, Sonoma, New Hampshire, Indianapolis, Michigan, and Darlington before we see our next 1.5 mile track at Chicago. Which is very much down the line from now. In fact, it's the second race of the opening round of the playoffs. So these 1.5 intermediate racetracks make up the bulk of the NASCAR Monster Energy Series, and of course a bulk of the calendar here on the iRacing Class A and so on and so forth, but not a whole lot of them into the second half of the season. Only Chicago and then Homestead, 1.5 mile racetracks from this point on to the end as we look forward.
A lot of variety in that mix. You got a road course. You got a couple of shorter ovals per se, like a New Hampshire Motor Speedway. You go down the list. Pocono is going to be big. There's a lot of drivers that love that racetrack because it is so unique. Can't wait for those races, but nevertheless, we still got a lot of racing to go here at Charlotte. There's a lot that can change over these next 70 laps and change.
Going to get set for another restart, though, off of our shortest green flag stint on the night. Pace car down, Alfalla in control, and another clean start for the number 2 Ford. Green flag flies, 125 laps now into the works from Concord, North Carolina, side by side for second, and for the inside of row 2, Bobby Zelensky rockets to second.
Another good start from Ray Alfalla, but yeah, very good jump from Bobby Zelensky. He's forced his way up through over the last couple of restarts, and his Ford is now in pursuit of the leading Ford that is Ray Alfalla. Zach Novak, though, is very quick. In his starts, he's pushed his way pretty much through the field, having started in 15th position. He's got the inside line. He is going to keep it, and he might actually nip the rear of the 83 of Bobby Zelensky. He will not. That Toyota looking very racy as the rest of the field pulls on through to the backstretch as we are on lap number 126.
And a real tight at a 2 also between the 58 and the 42. Dylan Duvall and Kenny Humpy for 7th on the racetrack. Not in agreement over real estate. That time through the quarter, and this battling continues to be intense off of these green flags, and these guys didn't even come down to the pit lane, so not necessarily on sticker fresh tires. Keeping a look, though, at the battle inside of the top 5. Novak in, Lusa out, and each one of opposed going to give his assistance to the outside of the racetrack. Decided not to go 3 wide, and he'll try to help out the Racer Boost Ford on that outside lane of the racetrack, looking for a big run at a turn 4. Can't get it, though, and the 15-1 stay deadlocked.
Caution flag is out on the speedway once again as these guys will slow it down, and we'll get another yellow flag back out here. And is it the 55 again?
Yep, Schoenberg problems off in corners 3 and 4. I'll tell you what, when it rains, it pours, and it has not been fun for Schoenberg, who stuck outside without an umbrella. This time, had a lot of assistance. The 90 Nicholas Johnston went to his inside. This was a battle for position at about 37th on the racetrack. The 90 went into the corner and either did not lift or did not turn, and that 90 just got real tight, pushed up the hill, hit Schoenberg, and the 55 ended up in the wall. It was not done at that point, but the 90 tried to save it, came back up and hip checked the 55 again and destroyed that car.
Yeah, just looking at where that 90 was beforehand, it had a little bit of door damage on the driver's side door, but that really shouldn't have been enough to really cause it to be that tight. I mean, that thing was, you couldn't get that thing turned at all as they went on through. And for Schoenberg, I mean, oh boy, you got to feel for him. This is, I think, the 3rd caution that he has been involved with and definitely not the day that he's wanted to have. But either way, though, that car, I mean, for the record, that thing is pretty much toasted, but either way, almost everybody coming down pit road.
And a drag race off for the pit lane. Ray Alfala gonna come up short. Zach Novak in the 15 Toyota, 4 tires in fuel, and he will take the race lead off of the pit lane. Alfala gonna fall to second, lose a Blackford Bose inside of the top 5. Zelensky and Bias not down the pit lane. They will assume the number 1 and 2 positions, and I would expect them to stay out. We've seen a couple of drivers towards the back of the pack stay out, get the bonus point for leading the lap, and then come down to the pit line. I don't think that's what the 83 and 27 are up to, because that would drop them outside of the top 30, which I'm sure is not part of the game plan. But we'll see if something's going to come of this. For Zach Novak, either he's going to assume the race lead if those guys up front pit, or if Zelensky and Tobias stay out like we expect them to do, it's going to be the first restart in 3 attempts at it, where Ray Alfala is not in control of it.
Yeah, I think there was 8 on the lead lap that stayed out on that exchange, and there might actually have been a little bit more. Zelensky, Bias, Fayash, Krizik, Phil Diaz, David Rattler, Matt Busa, Corey Vincent, Taylor Hurst, Zach Novak, your top 10 as they run after those pit stops. I don't think it's a really bad strategy for Zelensky and Bias. We ran 3 or 4 laps through those stints on green flag laps, on hot laps, and then you had a bunch of caution flags, so you did have a little bit of a heat cycle on those tires. But for Zelensky, Bias, there's a bunch of them that stayed out behind them, and if we keep getting these short little bursts of cautions, we're going to have another pit stop, and maybe some of those guys like a Phil Diaz or David Rattler, Matt Busa, that might not have been running anywhere near the top 10, they might get some strategy out of this, they might get some track position out of this, and we might very well see one of those guys, if not steal a win here tonight, maybe steal a top 10 finish.
Well, fantastic way that this race has worked out for those guys. Somebody like a Chandler Krizik, who has a fast car, because, that Nexus machine started in 33rd position, but was the 5th best in warm-up. So these cautions have given him an opportunity to stay out and assume the number 4 position. Even if we got a caution when we did for that first time at lap number 90, if we had 40 lap stints and everybody was on the same strategy for pit service, it wouldn't be easy for these guys to make up that kind of ground. But if we have these 10, 15, 20 lap very short stints where people are not going to be pitting every single time, and you're going to have somebody pit every 2 or every 3 times, then you'll have things really getting mixed up. Taylor Hurst, who started 40th, is running in 9th on a racetrack right now. Right next to a guy who started on row number 4 in Corey Vincent. So the complete running order has been shuffled up, I think, less so based on the fact that we just got that first caution, but I think more so, Cam, because the last 3 stints or so have been very short and people haven't been pitting every time like they were before.
Yeah, it's really hard to shift mentally from doing 100 laps of green flag running to now having 3 concurrent cautions almost back-to-back. But for Bobby Zelensky, well, he's gotten the good jump a couple of times now. The field is his. It's going to be down to his right foot. And for Andrew Fayash, he started in 11th. He'd been sitting mid-pack all day. We'll see what he can do. That inside line, though, is definitely going to get the whole shot here at Charlotte as we're going to go back to green.
The lead cars on fresh tires, 10th and 11th. We'll see how fast they can get up through the field. Green flag for Bobby Zelensky. Fantastic restart for the 83 on the inside line. Fayash going to try to battle for second. Keeps the nose on the inside. Bias wants down, and Fayash won't let him. Side by side for second down the back.
They'll drive it down the back straight away. The 27 will have the outside line. 77 of Fayash trying to keep it on the inside. 3 wide behind them, just outside the top 5. And it's getting hairy back here as some of these drivers on new tires trying to come through. The 10 of Corey Vincent on the extreme outside. Hello, Ray Alfala. Alfala on the inside. They're 3 wide behind them as well. Ryan Luza makes it 4 wide. They're around, and we're going to have another caution.
And that is big junk in corners 3 and 4. Caution flag is out. And for the first time tonight, the accident takes out a lot of front runners. It comes at lap 133. And the carnage is down in quarters 1 and 2. We'll take a second look at a RaceSpotTV replay. 3 wide into quarter number 1. And they just ran out of real estate. The 34 and the 10. In fact, they tried to go 4 wide. That one loser tried to split the difference. turned himself across the nose of the 22. At the same time, the 10 got into it with the 34, and that creates a whole lot of chaos and takes out a couple of fast race cars.
I don't know what Luza was thinking, I will say. I think in his mind he had the speed and he was going to lapse Brian Blackford and have the inside line and do a pretty slick move to the inside, and perhaps he was trying to telepath and just try to stay behind Ray Alfala, but we had basically the exact same accident happening twice on both sides of the lane. It almost looks like synchronized crashing, really, but once that started happening, everybody tried to jam on the brakes. The crash went high and then it went low, and people really had nowhere to go. A lot of cars involved in this. I see Marcus Richardson with damage, Alan Bowes with damage. I see Ryan Lowe, I think, carries a little bit of damage. Zach Novak, I mean, what a day he was having. He's picked up some damage. I think a couple of other on top of Luza as well. So it's just hard to see pretty much your entirety of the mid-pack pick up damage to some sort of effect. And for Bobby Zelensky, I mean, smart decision by him to stay out, and really the smart decision from the guys behind him to stay out as well, because they were well clear of that incident.
And at first I thought maybe Luza was trying to dive to the inside because he had seen that contact up in front of him, but I think that, you know, when you get those second looks at that, I think that either or of those accidents would have happened regardless if the other one had or didn't. That was just two simultaneous pieces of contact, and that's why it wadded up so many cars, because the inside was blocked and the outside was blocked. I will say, though, considering how close to the front that was, could have been a lot bigger. For the most part, the guys back at the back did a pretty good job of not piling into that one.
And we sit under caution again, and I think that's kind of the strategy that plays into the hand of guys like Krizik, Diaz, Rattler, Taylor Hurst, those guys that stayed out on the racetrack. They're going to get, maybe, if they get lucky, maybe a couple of extra caution flags, and then everybody's going to be back down onto pit road. Even if we get a 10-15 lap run, I think it's going to work really well in the hands of Krizik, Diaz, Fayash, and of course Zelensky and Bias, who have been running well all night long. We're working lap number 136 under the caution flag. There's still over 60 laps to go, 65. There's a long way to go here, and there's still at least one more pit stop for all of these drivers between now and the checkered flag in the longest race of the year.
And I want to remind you that this portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bed Liners, the official bed liner of NASCAR. Been seeing the Herculiner machine working its way around the field here tonight, and to get itself back up into position. But this again is really changing the complexion of this race. I'm pretty sure we went those opening 91 laps uncontested, Cam, at about 50 minutes or so. And since then we've gone from lap 96 or 97, whenever we went back in green flag conditions, to lap 136 at about a half hour. So cautions really do slow down the pace of this thing, and with still over, as we actually get inside now, 70 laps to go, but a little bit over 60 laps to go in this race. Could still be a while before we start talking about the checker.
Yeah, it could certainly be, as we're seeing the onboard from Brandon Schmidt. He navigated through. He actually took it 3 wide, down, got on the brakes, and he worked his way through the incident. It was about the closest you can get away from going in the middle of an accident on the high and low side. I have to say, it was a great race at the start. I don't want to say like the race is over as the lights are out and that somehow the race is ruined. This is still good racing that we're seeing here. It's just so hard with all of these restarts that we have to see. It's starting to turn into the duel of who can restart the best. But we had a great green flag run here. We were going to see, it was very interesting to see who was going to have what strategy and what was going to pay off, but it just wasn't in the cards. Once you started that caution, you got people with new tires, people with old tires that are still, they're only 5, 6, 7, 8 laps apart, and some of those laps are done on a caution, but they still, just a little difference of speeds, Evan, and we're just seeing that really come into play. So hopefully everyone can take a deep breath, knuckle down, and we'll see here if we can finish out these last laps under green.
And we saw at the start of this race, we can have the exciting action off of these restarts and still keep it clean. It's a question of, as we close in on the end of this race, how much patience Are these guys still willing to give? And if it's going to be a lot more take as opposed to give out there on the racetrack and in the pack. Pace car back off and away. Zelensky, another beautiful restart to complete lap number 137. He's gone to turn 1. 3-4 car lengths over Cody Bias, who will maintain P2. Battle going to be for third. Fayash on the inside and Krizik on the outside.
Yeah, that was a big jump for Zelensky. He's going to take that lead down the back straightaway. And as you mentioned, the battle for third continuing to heat up. Fayash on the inside, Chandler Krizik on the outside. Just behind them, keep a half eye on Ray Alfala. He just passed David Rattler and now has a side-by-side battle in front of him. Phil Diaz on the outside, and on the inside, looks like Taylor Hurst beginning to move as well. And looked like he thought about 3 wide coming out of corner number 4 the last time by, but now he has Ray Alfala to the outside, Fayash a little bit sideways, and Hurst will go to the inside. We're 3 wide. Alfala on the outside. This is going to get tight down into 3.
Yeah, it's not going to end because the 2's up there. That's not the first time, though. The 74's gone 3 wide, and it's Fayash who backs out of this one. That'll cost him not only the spot between he, Alfala, and Hurst, but also a spot to the 42 at Duval. Now in front of them, Ray Alfala pushes the 94 of Philip Diaz to 4th and then crosses him up to get it for himself. Ray Alfala got stuck a little bit back in pack when he came to pit road, got tires, and the top 10 or so drivers, in fact the top 9 in front of him, decided to stay out. Well, trying to make his way back to the field, so is Taylor Hurst. Hurst also going to make a move on that number 94. Alfala to 4th and Hurst to 5th.
Meanwhile, Bobby Zelensky in that 83, he is trying to cover from Cody Bias. Cody Bias, where did he come from? He had been really cycled and relegated back to the middle of the pack pretty much this entire race, except for that amazing start that he'd had and a great qualifying that he had. But other than that, he had cycled back. And yet, here he is, as he's now hunting down Bobby Zelensky. We'll see what he can do. Chandler Krizik as well as Ray Alfala, as we were saying. And then once you get to position 5 on back is when things start getting interesting. You've got Michael Conti just ahead of Blake Reynolds and Brian Blackbird. So they're going 2 by 2. I think guys are starting to calm down just a little bit, and I think everyone is almost on the same tire strategy as Jack Nichols almost looks to go to the inside as Brian Blackbird, as this right here is where the action's heating up.
And this is where it all kind of broke loose that last time, right at about the number 10 position. They fight. There's a fight behind them. Derek Bordeaux just now picking up a spot from Matt Busa at a battle for 16th and 17th, but eyes on the 22 of Blackford as he tries to navigate traffic in the virtual racing school. Ford Fusion on the outside. A big run for Shearburn in the center of the corner. That car got a little bit too loose, though, on the exit at 2. He wasn't able to keep his foot in the gas, and they single file out. They're still very tight together into the corner. Johnson checks up, pushes up, and Bordeaux tries to take an opportunity from that.
Up in front, Ray Alfala continues to move. He's on the outside of Cody Bias. Bias looked underneath Zelensky the last time, through corners number 1 and 2 and could not get there, and now Alfala looks to the outside and he's got the run down the back straightaway. He does not do anything with it down into corner number 3. Thought he was going to go to the inside. He had a head of steam down the back straightaway. Coming out of corner number 4, though, the 2 car going to peek to the inside. We're going to be side by side for the top spot. Zelensky's going to be on the outside. Ray Alfala drives it in deep on the inside. Krizik right behind them, side by side with Bias. But Ray Alfala going to poke the nose out of corner number 2. They'll drag race down the back.
55 laps to go. This time, and Alfala is on the charge. Zelensky all the way up the hill. He'll try to pinch tight at a quarter number 4. He'll get a run, but it's not going to be enough. At the start-finish line, Ray Alfala back to the race lead with 146 now laps in the works from Charlotte. Can he clear him, though, in 1 and 2? The top side has been very good at this end of the racetrack, and Zelensky going to be able to pull even with a great run down the back straightaway.
Yeah, Zelensky's able to easily keep up as they go through 3 and 4. Alfala, I've noticed over the course of this race, is his rear gets a little snappy and a little loose coming off of 4. No problems there. Car's plenty glued down to the track. I'm sure those Goodyear Eagles are serving him very well, as pretty much everyone's on new tires. Zelensky's just holding it outside line, but slowly, ever slowly, Alfala was able to keep up pulling forward. He really could have closed the door and slammed Zelensky, but he did not, and we'll see perhaps he will be clear enough this time by. Will he drift up the track? Yes, he will. Zelensky sees that coming a mile away. He was going to dive to the inside, but Dylan Duval was there to take the inside away from him. Duval, will he immediately go for the lead? Third, one lap first, the next? Nope, not going to happen. Duval actually going to scrub his momentum, and that will allow Zelensky to power on the outside. Meanwhile, this is allowing everyone to keep right on in. Taylor Hurst, that's a name that you haven't seen running up front, started in 40th position. He's 0.3 of a second behind your leaders. Chandler Kreisek, Cody Bias, Philip Diaz, Andrew Fayash, Michael Connie, Blake Reynolds, and Jake Nichols as they're running through lap 148, almost 50 to go.
To tell you what, I think Dylan Duval cut Ray Alfala a break on that one. The two went down to shut the door, but it's a quad oval at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, not a tri-oval. Those two very distinct kinks before and after the start-finish line. Eric Jones learned about that on the weekend, and the 42 used it to get to the inside of the two. I think he had a spot. Alfala chopped him a bit, and the 42 cut him a break by letting off, and now that means Ray Alfala is going to start to stretch it out, while the 42 tries to deal with Bobby Zelensky. Zelensky still topside. He'll dive it and get P2. Caution, flag flies, though. 50 laps to go, and it's problems on the front straightaway, looks like with the 12 of Alex Bergeron.
Yeah, tough break for Alex Bergeron in the 12. I know he'd been trying to get on the sequence with the pit strategy. It looks like he had a little run-in with Derek Bordeaux in car 04 as they come up at a corner number 4, and looks like the 12 car got a little bit of help sliding through the grass on the front straightaway.
Yeah, just a couple of guys that ran into the real estate, and I think the 12 was loose on his own. It's tough to tell. But he did definitely slide across the bumper of the 04. Bordeaux is still coming up off of the corner, and it does not look at all to be intentional, but Alex Bergeron ends up getting sent for a ride through the grass, and that brings out a caution flag. Tough break up for the Miro Toyota, and now we slow things down. 50 laps to go. That last green flag run, though, a little bit longer than what we had seen for the couple of stints before that, Cam, so I'm expecting everybody up front to pit.
Should. I mean, Ray Alfala's got 22 laps on his tires. Bobby Zelensky, 36 laps. So I think between the two, they're both going to nod at each other and go, all right, it's time. We're going to go get some tires and see what we can do here. And I have to say, Zelensky, how great of racing for tires that were almost 10 laps older that he managed to do as he nipped very close on the inside of Ray Alfala before having to back it off a little bit there before they get to their pit stalls. Everyone has to stay to the right side of the pit lane, as I do see a little bit of tire smoke from the entry, but I think everything ended all right. Everyone's going to get their pit service done. Nobody's going to go to 2 tires. Everyone wants 4. You can't afford to not have that grip, as Dylan Duval, well, he will pull into that first stall, and we'll see here just whereabouts people lay and where people end up. Evan, is everyone just getting their service? Pulling away. It looks like it might be Ray Alfala. Yes, it will. So very close with Bobby Zelensky, but Zelensky had to pull to the outside. No challenge there, so Ray Alfala, he will resume his lead.
They came in tight. I was going to say, look at Duval because he's got the #1 pit stall, so he has a little bit of an extra fighting chance in that race off of pit road, but I was particularly interested in Zelensky watching those guys pit because he was on the bumper of Ray Alfala onto the pit lane, and Alfala is able to beat him off, so the two get to maintain that spot. A handful of drivers, though, do stay out, including a couple of lead lap cars. It looks like Zach Novak in the 15 and Timmy Hill in the 14th position are the drivers who have stayed out. Both of those drivers may indeed come down to pit subsequently. The 4 thought about it, late commitment, but will come down pit road. I don't think the 15 of Zach Novak can stay out because that machine looks pretty damaged. So I would expect him to collect a bonus point, which he just got that time by if he hadn't already let a lap in this thing, and then bring that 15 down pit road. In fact, I'm surprised he's not coming on and off of pit road all caution long, Tim, because that car's got a lot of damage I'm sure he'd like to get fixed.
And the 4 car at Timmy Hill, I think he was trying to do the same thing to grab that bonus point. He was down on pit road with everybody else and drove through pit road. I think he thought, hey, I can get out and get an extra bonus point, because you never know at the end of the season when it comes down to locking into the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series for the 2018 season, what 1 point might do for you. So I think that's what Timmy Hill was thinking, and then he saw Novak out on the racetrack, decided to peel down pit road that last time by and get service on his race car. So continues to be Novak under this caution flag, but Alfala, Zelensky, Duval, Cam mentioned Taylor Hurst has come a long way, a beneficiary of that little strategy, those little quick bursts of green flag racing in between the cautions. Same thing with Chandler Krizik, same thing as Phil Diaz, Andrew Fayash. I think it really benefited those drivers. Now the question is, with everybody on even keel with tires and fuel, do those guys hang with Ray Alfala and Bobby Zalinski, Dylan Duval, Cody Bias, Kenny Humpy? Do you know, they hang with all those guys that were up front earlier that might have a shot at winning this race? Alfala's been quick. We obviously saw Duval try to make a move on that last run. We'll see what transpires here, because I think there's some guys that might be trying to surprise us in the late going of this one.
Right, because the reason, you know, the likes of Alfala and company were able to rush the front is they did have that little bit of a tire advantage. They were 10th and 11th and so on and so forth off for the restart because the top 9 had stayed out on one of those short stints, but were at a tire disadvantage. So now we'll see, much like the people before the halfway point in this race that had done the short pit and were basically just waiting for the people who had gone the 40-lap stints to catch him and pass him to get around him. Got the caution. Next thing you know, we're up front, got 4 tires, got in this thing. Same situation here. The strategy benefits, obviously didn't maintain the race lead, but they hang out inside of the top 10. Hurst, you mentioned one of them who started 40th. Krizik, who started 33rd. Even Blake Reynolds, who started 31st. You got fresh tires. If you've got something, now's the time to show it, because there's no guarantee that we're going to have a lot of these restarts left in this thing. Pace car down and away. 46 laps still to go tonight from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Ray Alfala, so good tonight on restarts, and another good jump that time. Green flag in the air, and a 2 machine takes off.
Another good start for that number 2 Ford, but Bobby Zalinski, he's got tires equally matched to Ray Alfala. Let's see what they can do with a fair fight. They're both clear, as now it's 2 by 2 for position 4 back, as they're continuing to push their way through. Andrew Fayash, he's comfortable in a little bubble all his own. It's Taylor Hurst, he's going to run that high side immediately. Dylan Duval, he's going to keep onto the low. Taylor Hurst cutting across. He'll try to get a single file, as I think everyone's going to focus on getting single file with just 45 laps to go here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. But it just looks like that's so very difficult from position 10 on back.
And despite the yellows, the field hasn't thinned out much. That time, still 35 scored on the lead lap. And still a battle really much going at it inside of the top 5. Duval inside. Outside of the racetrack is Krizik. Inside may have an advantage into 3, and it will. Dylan Duval is going to be able to get that number 4 spot. 48 squeezes in behind him and over the nose of Cody Bias. And now we'll fight back to the inside. It took a while to get from the top to the bottom, but we'll call it a crossover as Krizik now tries his hand at the bottom.
Doesn't seem like he can hold the bottom in the middle of the corner. Duval will have the run off of corner number 2 and down the back straightaway, though he got a little tail happy coming off of that second corner. It will allow Krizik to go back to the inside, or at least try to pick up that position. Cody Bias, a part of this little battle as well, as they come out of corner number 4 and cross the stripe. Top 3 for the moment are single file as they go side by side for what is now positions 4 and 5. And Bias makes the move and looked like he was going to go underneath Dylan Duval, just didn't have the head of steam to do so.
And that'll single file those drivers out. So for the moment, the top 7 can breathe. 8th position, not so much. Side by side, Andrew Fayash is still in this and had a fantastic qualifying effort. As we noted earlier on, after starting in 11th, the 77 has had many good finishes in this series. And the thing that he constantly knocks himself over is qualifying. So starting on row number 6 was a fantastic start for the 77. And it's meant that he's been able to be in this fight all night long, and he will defend against Diaz. The 94 has to give up the fight on the inside and drop in line. So we'll filing things out for the first time, 1 through P10.
Yeah, and the leaders right now, having worked through the damaged car of Zach Novak, and for that number 15 Toyota Camry, you've got a feel for him right now. The entire field, whom he had pace on, is now easily sliding by on the inside. So for Zach Novak, it's not necessarily the day that he wanted. It was looking like it was a very promising day for him, but obviously he just goes yet another lap down. Not what he had wanted, but meanwhile, still fighting up front. Bobby Zalinski has not lost Ray Alfala, and Taylor Hurst has not lost Bobby Zalinski, so it's 1, 2, and 3. As the laps continue to click on down, Dylan Duval, he was pretty good at the start of this race. Obviously, the team qualifying very well. We'll see if he can pull on through, and not that far behind is Cody Bias. So we'll see what these guys all can do as we're continuing to work, and the closing stage is about 40 laps to go here at Charlotte.
At the top of the night, we noted that we are halfway through the regular season. 6 down and 6 to go until the playoff cutoff for the top 8. And, well, you know, there were drivers who came into tonight substantially more comfortable than others. 6 races is a long time, and there's a handful of drivers who are not having a great night. Luza, points leader, involved in an accident earlier. He runs in 33rd position on the racetrack. We mentioned Logan Clampett, 4th in the points, not here tonight. We just talked about Zach Novak. Well, he was into tonight 6th on that playoff grid. He has scored in 36th position, which is bad because he was only 20 points above the cut line. So a lot may change at the top of the championship standings after tonight with 5 races to go until that playoff field is determined. Alfala, meanwhile, leading this race, trying to go back-to-back on his first win on 2017 on the 9th at Richmond, and he is trying to get away from Zelensky. Zelensky not losing contact with the two, but he's not all over him. Couple of car lengths of separation at the moment, and Zelensky may be preoccupied with Taylor Hurst, who's trying to get up the second.
Yeah, Taylor Hurst having a great run here late in this one in the last quarter of this race, currently running in position number 3 and got a great head of steam down the back straightaway that last time, but can't do anything with Zelensky for the time being. The top 10 for the most part has got single file with the exception of that battle for second, which is now side by side. The 74 got that run in the middle of the corner, holds it down through the dog leg, and looks like he's going to try to drive it into corner number 1 and try to get Zelensky. Zelensky holding his own on the outside line. Duval watching from behind. The 74 up the track a little bit. The 83 gets that run off of corner number 2. Looks like the 74 maybe tried to steal it away a little bit that last time by. They continue to go toe-to-toe through 3 and 4. Zelensky, great run through 3 and 4. He might have it here.
Outside, and he does. So Zelensky in the 83 machine, able to hang on. Hurst, Duval still behind. Caution once again, lap 166. It's a problem on the front straightaway, corner 1, and it's driver sideways at the middle of the track, David Rattler from 14th.
Yeah, and it looks like this started coming off of position 4, and it wasn't actually Rattler at all. It was Brian Blackford. Brian Blackford getting a little bit of a tap from Derek Bordeaux coming off of corner number 4 and almost through that first little dog leg there, and the 22 getting turned around. David Rattler, nothing he could have done. He got absolutely blasted in his right front tire, killed the outside commitment, the exit cone for pit lane, and he came across the track. I think he also scraped into somebody else as he went through the number 8 car of Adam Gilliland, who is already not having a grand old day. But either way, David Rattler, he is going to bring out our next caution.
When you're sitting on somebody's left rear like that, it happens all the time in the center of the corner. When you're on that left rear and it's just a little bit of a push towards the right-hand side as that guy makes that left-hand turn, and it's almost like you're turning right on his left quarter panel, when in reality he's turning left across your nose. It just does not work. And we've seen a couple of guys get away with that. That time it did not. And it brings it a caution flag in this race inside of 40 laps to go. What this is, though, means that this pit stop will give these guys enough fuel to the end regardless. Pit stops down the line may bring drivers back down to the pit lane, but the fuel you get now will be enough to get you to lap 200. Alfala leads him down. Zelensky right on the bumper. He was close and challenged Alfala off of the pit lane last time. Can he do it again?
The only lead lap car, I believe, that stayed out on the racetrack might be the pace car. Everybody else coming down into pit road. Alfala, quick work so far on that race car, and we'll see if he is the one to win the race off pit road and get some valuable track position, and he might have lost a couple of positions here at the end of this one. Zelensky gets out ahead of him, and is that Marcus Richardson maybe? No, it's Derek Bordeaux right ahead of those guys as well, of guys that took service. I think Timmy Hill may have drove through pit road again.
In Bordeaux, you want to talk about a strategy call. The iAnalyze machine goes for 2 tires. That's how he beats even Bobby Zelensky off of the pit lane. But the 83 was close last time. I had a hunch that he might have been able to get Alfala this time, and he did. So he jumps in front of the 2. That could be big if the 83 goes on to victory lane in this. Is that better executed pit stop?
Yeah, and we'll have to see how that comes about. Zelensky, though, he should have the jump on the car of Derek Bordeaux once the laps start ticking down. I think Bordeaux is hoping for maybe 10, maybe 15 lap run, and then another pit dash, perhaps another yellow But either way, we'll have to see just how this plays out. Timmy Hill will be the leader officially after an hour and 41 minutes here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, but obviously he's going to come in and get some service. But we'll see how Bordeaux's car works. For Zelensky, though, well, he's got the outside line, and I'm not necessarily sure if that's what he wants.
And you have to think now, realistically speaking, I noted the fuel. That was really, just for statistical purposes, because I don't think that this race is going to go green for these final 30 laps. We saw the caution come out at the halfway point. There were a lot of people who got, kind of hung back in traffic that wanted to get themselves back up into this thing. They got a little bit excited, and we saw a couple of accidents that we could have avoided. But now with 30 laps to go, I had said when we were talking about a battle for the race lead between Alfala and Duval that I think the 42 cut the 2 a bit of a break when he backed off it going into 1. I don't expect to see any of that anymore, which means that it could get messy in these final 30 laps of this thing. Timmy Hill is your race leader, fully expecting the Ford to come down to the pit lane, and he will this time to be surfaced. It'll be Bordeaux, Zelensky, Alfala, Nolan Scott, and Taylor Hurst, your top 5. Again, reminding you that the 04 is on 2 only.
And we should mention as well that the first 90 laps, there was a lot of give and take. The last few laps or so, there was a little less give, and I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of give compared to take, as you mentioned, in these last 30 laps. We've seen some of these races play out like that, but you look through the names that could very well end up getting a good finish because of some strategy. If we do get a few caution flags, obviously Derek Bordeaux up in front would be one of those drivers. We talked about Chandler Krizik on the last cycle of pit stops. He's still in the top 10. Taylor Hurst is still in the top 10. We've seen Nolan Scott steal a top 5 finish already this season. This could be the second one of the year for the veteran of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. We could see some names come in here and possibly take away a top 5, which could be very crucial when it comes to those championship standings. Not only to maybe get in the chase, but maybe lock yourself in for the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series if you're back there around that bubble.
170 complete, 30 laps still to go on tap. Can Bordeaux do something with those 2 tires? We have not seen 2 tires be a fantastic idea tonight. We'll see if the 04 can make something work. He's got the restart nailed. Absolutely no hesitation. Green flag flies. We go back and away, and he'll let the 4 tires fight behind him.
He will get the jump, and I think that's really what he was planning for as they go through 1 and 2. He's been seeing that the leaders have been getting the jump, but already you can see in 3 and 4 just how fast Alfala is able to catch up, and we'll see here what Zelensky will do. Will he make it interesting going to 3 and 4? No, I think these guys, they just want to get through Derek Bordeaux with his 2 tires, see if they can cycle him back. Fight from there. Right now, Bobby Zelensky, he's looking to the inside. Derek Bordeaux taking a neutral line through, going high, low, high again. And here comes Zelensky on the inside. So very close. He's going to have to back well out of it. And Taylor Hurst had to join him. And here comes Dylan Duval and the rest of the field on the inside. But Bobby Zelensky covers his corners.
That might have been it for that number 83 as he falls back. It's going to give Ray Alfala the first shot at the race lead. To the inside, and he got it. Well executed in quarter number 4. Ray Alfala back to the point. 18 laps to go. I thought that the 83 passing Alfala on pit lane would have been his best opportunity to get to the race lead, to get around the 2 before they caught Bordeaux. It did not happen, though, and now Zelensky's stuck in traffic while Alfala pulls away.
They get single file down the back straightaway, but they fan out again down into corners number 3 and 4. And look at Hurst roll the top on the outside of Bordeaux. He is going to take position number 2. What a beautiful move by Taylor Hurst to take that runner-up spot. And now Zelensky trying to do the same thing, trying to roll the top on Derek Bordeaux. Dylan Duval behind them, Krizik. And it's that car number 5 of Michael Conti. We saw him earlier in the race so strong. Now he's back up in the top 10 as they battle it out within the top 10, trying to get some more track position here. Alfala leads. We got one sideways.
It's the 73 machine, and he's going to try to hang on to this thing. Everybody going to jump high and jump low, and so far no caution. Jake Nichols slow, but he's out of the way.
I was going to say, here comes the leaders. No, that's just fine.
Oh, he got hit by Luza now.
Yeah, okay. Well, you know, that's he predicted I was going to say his name and immediately lost the front bumper. Not what you want to see there. He's almost going to tap the rear of Tyler Hill. So Luz has got to get that car under control. I could have swore that that was going to bring the caution out. Everyone had gone to the apron. I think quite a couple of cars had disengaged the throttles, but we had seen quite a bit of action back here. We saw 2 cars earlier going into the grass. That was because Blake Reynolds almost lost the rear, and that sent Brad Davies and another car, Philip Diaz, into the grass. But obviously the leaders are still working and hustling their way through. We continue to stay green, and I think we can all take a collective sigh. That was almost a yellow.
That's not the first time we've seen cars in the grass. Earlier tonight, we saw somebody on fresh tires use the grass and the dogleg there on the front straightaway to get around some slower lap machines. It worked. So a couple of times tonight, that has happened. A battle for the race lead is on, though, at 177. The 2 well protecting the inside, but he'll get crossed over. Hurst, top side to the inside. They'll go side by side for the race lead. 23 laps to go the next time by the start-finish line, and Alfala going to try to pinch him down. He'll get the run out of 4. He'll lead the lap, but Hurst is not going away.
Hurst has been so good on the outside. They'll come up on David Rattler, tight down into corner number 1. Oh boy, Hurst is going to keep his foot in it, and he might be rewarded with the lead position. Alfala hanging on the right rear quarter. He'll get the run at a corner number 2. Hurst was making all those positions on the outside line. Now, if he wants this lead, he'll have to dig deep. Alfala on the outside, and it looks like they're joined by Zelensky. The 83 is closed up.
As soon as they got side by side, you saw Zelensky and you saw Duval close in. The 74 gets in line, and he gets crossed over by Zelensky. So side by side for second now is going to be exactly what Ray Alfala wants to see. 83 just can't get back to the gas, though. That battle short-lived. Back single file we go. Duval thinking about going at third, doesn't do it. Top 4, single file. Side by side for 5th, Cody Bias. On the inside of the racetrack, we get that spot.
Yeah, battling continuing up front. Now Taylor Hurst, he's going to try the outside line this time, but to no avail. Ray Alfala will cover the inside, but my goodness, these cars are starting to get a little more squirrely than I had expected them to earlier on, but either way, that whole kerfluffle has really split this field and really torn it kind of asunder, and I almost think that that's kind of a good thing. We can all breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief here, as here comes Taylor Hurst on the outside through 3 and 4. He will take the lead of the race with 20 laps to go. Taylor Hurst put him up to 74th position after he started without qualifying in 40th, but now he will have to hold on to that lead.
He is plus 39 from where he started this race. Ray Alfala is plus 3. Here comes pole sitter Dylan Duval to the inside of Zelensky. And in fact, going to put him to the inside of Ray Alfala. Trying to get 2 birds with 1 stone. Not going to work, and he can't find a spot in line. Duval led laps early, was in this battle early, and hasn't dropped out of the conversation, but hasn't been able to get back to that front row since the first run of this race. That Simcraft machine is now knocking on the door, trying to find an opening.
And same deal with his teammate behind him, Cody Bias, and even Chandler Krizik is back there hanging out within the top 6, within striking distance of your leader, Taylor Hurst. Hurst will come up on Zach Novak to put Novak another lap down in position number 36 as he goes to the outside. Hurst goes to the inside, and they'll motor on. But the top 5, you can throw a blanket over them, single file. Top 2 have about a 2-car length cushion or so on back to positions number 3, 4, and 5. But Taylor Hurst trying to come through in the clutch and trying to win one of the biggest races of this season. They'll come by Alan Bowes this time. They'll put him another lap down, and they'll complete lap number 183.
And everybody going to be able to easily get to the inside of the 21. Not quite as tight of a call as it was when we saw that lap traffic working on the inside of the racetrack a couple of laps ago as they tried to navigate around the damaged Onata Rattler, who, by the way, they may have to deal with once more. Alfala, though, big push this time, but a 2. He'll close in, thought about it, peeked to the inside, didn't go there. Both Hurst and Alfala going to ride the top side into the corner and come out of turn number 4 right about dead center. 16 laps left to decide this thing from Charlotte, and the top 2 trying to separate themselves so they can fight for it.
A couple of more lap cars to go, one of them being Nick Ottinger, and then another one being David Rattler. Again, he's running 31.8 second laps, and here comes Alfala onto the inside. Will he have the power to continue it through the corners as the tires are ever getting worn? Almost 3 wide between Cody Bias, Dylan Duval, and Bobby Zelensky in the back, but they'll straighten it all out, and they will get straight. Almost a little bit of a tap from the rear quarter panel to the front of Taylor Hurst, but no contact happens as they throw it into 1 and 2. One more time, it's the top 5 They're all together by less than 0.4 of 1 second with on lap 186.
Ray Alfala had it off for the restart. He lost it, and he just took it right back. Inside of 15 to go. Hurst now starts to slip. Does the 74 find some new life? Does the challenge have to come from Zelensky or Duval? If it does, they have to get around the 74, and there's more lap traffic. I think that kept the 83 in line, because Zelensky looked to the bottom, but jumped right back up in line. Seeing that lap traffic, now they're going to split. Here comes the 42 of Duval. Jump to the inside before Zelensky could, and this is perfect for the 2 car.
Look at that 42 on the inside, getting a great run. Almost had to pinch it off coming out of corner number 4. He's going to lose that position to Hurst, and it looks like he's going to lose the real estate on the inside of Bobby Zelensky. He's going to have to try to reset and try to get back down to that inside line and try to make something happen on Zelensky. But keep in mind, 2 weeks ago when Ray Alfala won the race at Richmond, he conserved his tires until Kenny Humpy had a late race charge to try to win that thing. Does somebody save enough to make a late race charge in these final 12 laps? We'll see what happens, but Ray Alfala is pulling away, and now the battle heats up again for seconds. Zelensky sets it up underneath Taylor Hurst down into corner number 1.
And the 83 is going to get the spot. Bobby Zelensky makes a pass for P2, just shy of 10 laps to go. Big run for Hurst, though. Does he cross him over? He's done it a couple of times tonight. He does not. So Hurst going to settle into 3rd. The 27 Bias just passing Dylan Duval. So Bias up to 4th, and Duval going to fall to 5th. But all of this may be just a little too late. Zelensky now going to have to chip away at a 6/10 of a second Ray Alfala advantage with 10 laps to go the next time around.
And just looking at the lap times for the fastest lap, it was a 27.2 from Ray Alfala, and he has been running 28.7s these last couple of laps, but that's not to say Bobby Zelensky is really going any faster. He's been running 28.8. So we'll have to see what that number 83 can do as they go across the starter stand one more time. It is a 28.9 for Zelensky, a 28.8 for Ray Alfala. Alfala continues to expand his lead. He seems to be in the clear now without any more concerns, unless something were to happen, such as the yellow coming out one final time, as Zelensky now has to cover from Cody Bias, Taylor Hurst, and Dylan Duval. So for Cody Bias and Dylan Duval, great recovery and great poise that they have had. If they had such a great qualifying session, they are still continuing to be right in front here in the closing stages of our race here at Charlotte.
And that one continues inside of the top 5. Meanwhile, Andrew Fayash continues to slip back off for the restart. The 77 is under attack by Chris Shearburn. If Shearburn's able to make the pass, Fayash will drop to 10th position. The 35 is on the inside and really struggling to get the bite off of the quarter. They've been deadlocked side by side now for a handful of laps. Fayash, another great run out of 4. And you'll have the nose there at the start-finish line. And Michael Conti in this in as well. Started 4th and 8th right now. Has had a very up-and-down night, but inside of the top 10, all seems well at the moment. Bobby Zelensky, the last time by, though, has fallen 1 second behind Ray Alfala. And if we get to 4 laps to go or less in this race, once we reach that point, a caution flag would end it. That is the point of no return. So if a caution's going to come out and they're going to change this race up, it's going to have to happen quick, because Alfala is taking off.
And it's really a battle for second at this point, Evan, but that's exactly what it is. It's a battle for position number 2. The 27 of Cody Bias, the last time by, tried to set up Bobby Zelensky. It looked like he was trying to hook the apron a little bit, trying to get that car to turn a little bit better down in turns 1 and 2, and he caught right up to the 83 car and could not make the move. The 83 goes a little high down into corners 3 and 4. The 27 is glued to that inside white line, trying to make it happen for position number 2. Dylan Duval is sitting back there, and as they battle, it looks like they're pulling away from Taylor Hurst in car number 74. So it's going to be a battle for position number 2, Evan, before this thing is all said and done. But that 27 car, really, really good in 1 and 2. Sucks right back up to the 83, dives it down into corner number 3 to the inside of the 83. We're side by side for second.
Hurst just needed a little bit more. If this race was, say, a regular distance or 15 laps shorter, that car might be at victory lane, but he falls off late as the battle turns to second. Obviously, as they go side by side, it's going to allow Ray Alfala to pull away that much quicker, but the 2, I think, faster than both of these cars at this moment. Next time by, 4 laps to go from Charlotte. Lap traffic on the inside. Bias going to jump up, so they go 2 wide into 3 and are safely, easily able to navigate around that one. Zelensky second, Bias third, Duval fourth. That's still all up for grabs. Alfala 1.5 now in front.
As he goes around Ryan Micheluzza, who is a very high priority as far as the championship standings go. Both of them having claimed victories at this point, though, but another lap down for Luza, who is involved in that massive wreck. Gotta remember, that massive wreck was just 2 positions behind Ray Alfala. If Alfala was a little bit slower off the pit road, he would have been involved in that, but instead, he is going to be leading this race on lap 198 as the battle for second continues.
Bias, just that time, he's able to get around Bobby Zelensky to take over second. And now Zelensky pushed high at 1 and 2, opens up the door for Duval to do something with it. Thought that maybe Luza would have been a bad factor in that battle as they got around the lap machine. It wasn't all that critical. Popsicle sticks in the air, though, this time by for your race leader, Ray Alfala.
Continues to be side by side, though, as Dylan Duval tries to take it away from Bobby Zelensky. Zelensky falling back in the late stages as Cody Bias pulls away from that battle. Ray Alfala is gone up in front, but the battle might very well be for second, third, and fourth. Zelensky trying to hook that white line, trying to get that car to turn a little bit better late in this race. Duval gets the run down the back straightaway. He'll look down into corner number 3. Zelensky way high as they'll come by to the white flag this time. They're side by side for third.
Charlotte is one of the few tracks on the calendar that has been on this schedule since 2010. It is one of very few tracks that has never seen a repeat winner, and that will continue tonight. Ray Alfala has not found victory at this Charlotte Motor Speedway in the past, but he had the better car when it mattered the most. He's going to come into 3 and 4 for the final time tonight, backing up a win 2 weeks ago at Richmond. He will go back to back and get the win tonight from Charlotte. Checkered flag, Ray Alfala steals this one.
What another excellent drive from that number 2 Ford Fusion. He'd worked his way through the top 10s sometimes as he had to work through lap traffic. We had that very long green flag run, almost 100 laps at the start of this race, and he had to fight his way through pretty much each and every condition, from starting restarts outside, starting restarts inside, starting from 3rd, 4th, 5th. He managed to make it all work. He'll come home with it with quite a substantial gap too, 1.5 seconds, so he's obviously the king of the field here today at Charlotte Motor Speedway as we're halfway through this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series.
And a much-deserved celebration for the two. He was one of, if not the best car all night long, but it had looked like strategy had put Taylor Hurst in a position to take this thing. Hurst started to run away with 15 laps to go, but Alfala poured the heat on. The 74 wasn't able to keep it going through the end of this one, and the 2 snatches it out from underneath his nose, dominates the final 10 laps, which may have been his best 10 laps he ran all night long, and he goes on to win this race, second on the season back-to-back, and he will join Ryan Luza. So your 2016 Peak Series champion joins your 16-17 Pro Series champion as the only 2 drivers to have 2 wins on 2017. Luza backed him up, did back-to-back in Las Vegas and Fontana, and Ray Alfala now going back-to-back Richmond and Charlotte to help himself out with a great result in the championship, and after a poor performance from Luza tonight, may have just rocketed himself to the lead in the championship.
We see Ray so strong usually in the middle of portion of the season on. Obviously, the playoffs are going to change that a little bit with the way we determine our champion, but with Ray Alfala getting hot now and starting to rack up those wins and rack up those top 5s, it's a bad sign for the rest of the field, because once Ray Alfala seems to hit his stride, it's pretty hard to get him out of it. We saw it last year with PJ Sturgis keeping step by step with him. I don't know if anybody can in the chase. It seems like right now, Ray Alfala's hot. It's just a matter of who can try to keep up with him.
His celebration has come to a close, and we will catch up with him trackside on the other side. First, let's take this opportunity to take a look at your RaceSpotTV full race results for round number 7. Ray Alfala, your winner, win number 2 on the season. Will be trackside with him, as well as the rest of the top 5. That includes Cody Bias, who comes home in 2nd tonight. Bobby Zelensky 3rd. Pole sitter Dylan Duval 4th. And Taylor Hurst still ends up plus 35 tonight, but does slip to 5th before it's all said and done. Blake Reynolds going to come home 6th tonight. Chris Shearburn in 7th position. Good result for Andrew Fayash, who finishes in 8th. Chandler Krizik comes home in 9th, and Philip Diaz to round out our top 10.
Michael Conti, he had been forward and back through the field. He'll finish in 11th position. Christian Challoner, he'll come home in 12th. Brad Davies in 13th. Corey Vincent in 14th. Ryan Lowe, he will come home in 15th position after starting 42nd. Derek Bordeaux, well, a two-tire strategy might have worked for him as far as the positioning works, but he'll just finish in 16th position, which is right where he was before he tried it, but you know what? Why not? Matt Busa, the number 34 car, he will come home in the 17th position. Alex Bergeron will cover after his spin. He'll finish 18th. Brandon Schmidt will finish in 19th position, and Marcus Richardson will finish in 20th.
Jake Sturgis struggled a little bit this evening. He'll come home in position number 21. Adam Gilliland in 22nd. Michael J. Johnson in 23rd. Trey Edson 24th. And Kenny Humpy, who ran so strong all night long, started on the outside pole, will come home in 25th. It's Casey Tucker in 26th. Jake Nichols in 27th. Timmy Hill 28th. Will Cooley 29th. And Nolan Scott tried to parlay some pit strategy into a top 10 finish. He'll come home in 30th.
Only one other driver finishes on the lead lap. That'll be P31 for Tyler Hill. Lap down drivers, those that were still in this thing, though, at least the cars were still on the racetrack. 32nd and 1 lap down to Ryan Luza. 33rd and 34th, 2 laps down. That was Byron Daly and Zach Novak. 3 laps down in 35th was David Rattler. 4 laps down in 36th was Nick Ottinger. You're talking 37th for Alan Bowes. Brian Blackford, 38th. Jimmy Mullis, 39th. Brian Schoenberg in 40th with Nicholas Johnston in 41st. Josh Berry in 42nd, and PJ Sturgis in 43rd. That is a look top to bottom at your RaceSpotTV full race results. We'll take this quick opportunity to step aside. When we come back, we will head trackside and talk with your race winner, Ray Alfala in Victory Lane. We'll talk with the rest of your top 5 finishers, and we will preview Pocono, the next race on this 2017 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing. The post-race show is next on RaceSpotTV. Welcome back live to the Charlotte Motor Speedway, where RaceSpotTV is continuing coverage of the 2017 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing. Continues through tonight's Charlotte 300, and we'll head to the Poconos in a couple of weeks' time. We'll talk about that in just a moment. First, we head trackside, going to talk with your top finishers, and all of that begins with the driver in victory lane. Ray Alfalla going to go back-to-back. He gets his second win on 2017 with the W here tonight, and we're trackside with the driver of the number 2 Ford. Ray, first off, congratulations, back-to-back. I know it's got to feel good for you guys, starting to catch that rhythm. We know you had great finishes in those opening 5 races, but you got the heat going, and tonight get to put yourself to the top of the championship standings. The car was fast, though, all night long. Looked for a good amount of time that this thing had a realistic shot of going green, if not the distance, for a long period of time. That changed at about the halfway point. Put yourself in a couple of interesting spots with some of those restarts late.
Yeah, great run for the virtual racing school again. You know, great work. Bobby put a lot into the setup, and you know, he just before the season he wasn't even, you know, didn't know that much about setups, and then we discussed you know, how to read telemetry and whatnot, and he's really now gotten really good at it. And you know, and then we were also using some notes that we got from our teammate Brian Blackford from last week that worked, and you know, we all just kind of sprinkle in a few ideas. Chris Olin, who was suspended for this race, but he'll be back at Pocono. And yeah, you know, this race was on my bucket list. You know, it's one of the big one of the majors, I guess. Daytona, Darlington, Indy, and Charlotte. You know, and I had won the other 3, so this one was really kind of up there, you know, circled on the calendar, if you will. And I was really frustrated last year because I thought I had a pretty good car, and you know, we were just fell a little bit short of the win. But you know, this race, you know, I don't want to say it was easy, but it was just one of those cars where all of a sudden, you know, into a run after that first green flag stop, we, you know, looked up at the standings and we were leading by 4 seconds somehow. So you know, and it's interesting because sometimes, you know, you'll be 4 seconds back and you'll be 4 seconds ahead, and you don't really notice the difference. It's just all relative as far as how fast everybody is compared to you. But yeah, we had a really good car tonight.
It looked like with about 15 laps to go, at least, that Taylor Hurst with some strategy helped him bump up after starting in 40th to get up front there with you guys on some of those caution flags. Was able to get himself up front, pitted with you guys, and then looked like he was running away with this thing. And next thing you know, the 2 machine comes flying back up. Did a 74 lose it a bit at the end, or were you guys saving something? And you know, what was kind of the thought process with trying to track him down while also keeping in mind, you know, you had Bias and Zelensky and Duval all over your back end at the same time?
Yeah, you know, I saw Taylor was really fast there, you know, those last few restarts, and I could tell he had a lot of speed. And then, you know, he was just rolling the center a whole lot better. He was just set up much looser than I was, and I did all I could, but he finally got to my outside, and I said, well, you know, this kind of sucks, you know. So yeah, my only hope was if it stayed green. And a couple laps after he passed me, I saw that he got loose into turn 1, and you know, if you get loose into a corner with how much grip this track had tonight, if you're loose at that point, you're probably in for a really bad time the next few laps, and that's pretty much what happened. He just lost his drive off, and we were able to pull away. But yeah, you know, everybody on slip angle, thanks a lot. I mean, we you know, everybody puts in a lot. Like I mentioned, you know, Chris Holman wasn't here tonight, but he's put a lot of testing time into the setups. I know Kyle Putz had a personal issue. He couldn't race tonight, so it was just Bobby, Brian, and I. And Brian had a good run going as well, and had some issues. He got wrecked, I think, and then he had some technical issues. So Bobby and I brought it home 1-3. I know Bobby's over there. He's over there mad because he didn't finish second. So that's a pretty good problem to have right now for Team Slip Angle.
Yeah, getting the top 5 finish and still wanting a little bit more tells you that you guys are running pretty good. For you guys, though, into tonight, something that we talked about a lot at the top of the broadcast and kind of in the weeks coming up to this is that Charlotte, the longest race on the season, 200 laps and a 1.5 miler. That being said, it's a statistical fact, but did that really change anything for you guys tonight, the added distance, as far as how you approach this thing?
I mean, not really. You know, you just kind of fall into a rhythm, and at the end, it's you know, when it would normally be over, you just add another 33 laps. So, you know, the whole race, we're also into, you know, how much how much to adjust the car if we're adjusting it, or how much fuel to take, and you just kind of get into that, and you don't even realize that you're running a much longer race, or it's not too much longer, but you don't really realize it. So again, I had a lot of help from Sal Frazzetto calling the cars out there when people pit and drivers are coming at you 10, 15 miles an hour faster in the corners. It can get pretty hairy out there, but he does a good job. And Chris Hennion, all with the adjustments, and Liam Brotherton calling the lap time. So everybody just does a great job, and it's a nice atmosphere to race in.
We got an extra off week before we head to the next race at Pocono, as things are going to be changing on the sim, which is always something that you guys have to be up on your toes and dealing with. We head to Pocono. That one is a 100-lapper, but that's a completely different kind of track. We talked to a point we made also tonight was the kind of uniqueness of these tracks coming up. There's only 2 other 1.5 milers left on this calendar year, and Homestead and Chicago are those 2, and they're much later on down the line. So the 13th, we go to Pocono, 3 weeks' time from tonight. What is the game plan? How are you guys going to attack the Tricky Triangle?
Yeah, well, I think iRacing announced that the repaved scan was coming up later this year. It's a shame we won't get it in before the build, most likely. But I would kind of like to run that new version, because this one is kind of it's difficult to set up for. Normally people say that bumps add character, but the way the bumps are at Pocono, it's kind of just annoying, just the way they interact with the car. But I mean, it's Indy is my favorite track, and this track is, at least turn 2 is modeled after Indy, so it's a fun track. Big lap times, you can pit and not lose a lap, so that changes things a little bit. So as always, we'll take an extra week off, and we'll come back and see if we can go for 3 in a row.
And based on how you guys have been all season, but especially the last couple of weeks, we expect nonetheless from you guys, Ray. We'll let you get out of here. As always, though, sir, you're familiar with the routine. The sponsors to shout outs. Who makes it happen for the 2-car?
Yeah, again, Virtual Racing School. Check them out on Facebook, and we offer driving lessons there, and we have data packs available for all sorts of driving improvement. And and also the paint scheme tonight, Chris Overland designed it way back in the off season, and we got to run it for this special race tonight. And also had input from all of my other teammates, put in some input. Even Kyle Putz just a couple of nights ago added something else to it. So thanks to those guys, and we'll see you all at Pocono.
That is your race winner tonight for the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and 2-time winner on 2017. Ray, thanks for sticking around and chatting. Congratulations. Best of luck, and hopefully we'll be chatting down the road once more.
Thanks. See you guys.
Just behind Tim, and really everybody in the top 5 that we're going to be talking to, was a part of this battle late. One little thing this way, one little thing going that way, and this could have been a completely different result. But for Cody Bias, it's a P2 result tonight. Started up front and had a pretty good car cam, and your trackside with him.
Yeah, I am here with Cody Bias at CBias27 on the Twitter, and of course, a member of the team, which had a great qualifying session, and really, it didn't necessarily pay off as getting the victory. But Cody, you're coming home in second after the longest race on the schedule. How'd your race go?
Well, it started off pretty well. We were fighting a pretty loose condition to start the race, and then throughout the first half of the race, the car just wasn't there. We were a few tenths off, and Justin had to keep making a lot of changes on pit road to get us somewhat competitive there at the end. But I thought we were gonna have a good night with the team taking the first 3 spots in qualifying, and so the track position part was already down, and we didn't have to really worry about coming from the back like a few guys did. It was just really tough to pass tonight, and fortunately for us, we had a good long run car, and we were able to make up some spots there at the second half of each run.
Yeah, and really, it was kind of the tale of 2 cities, wasn't it? We had that very long green flag run, and then we just had caution after caution after caution. I mean, all of these restarts really kind of reset the entire race, and just a couple of big accidents and all sorts of other incidents and whatnot. But it's always a bit of a change to really go through, especially when a race is as long as this, to really kind of change and keep everything going. You're talking about all the track adjustments you made. What adjustments do you have to make, like, as a driver, to really change from long green flag runs to constant restarts?
For me personally, I'm a big fan of Charlotte, and with the amount of wind we had in turns 1 and 2 tonight, it definitely changed up the way I've driven 1 and 2 for the last few years, and that probably is another reason why it took me all race to really learn what to do and how to change it up. But I just had to learn how to back up the corner and basically just try to get off the corner with the car straight, and that was definitely helping me towards the end of that race right there. As you could see, we were able to drive up to second. Ray definitely had the best car tonight, and we'll do our homework for Pocono here in a few weeks.
That's another top 5. That is your third of the season. Next, we are going to be going to Pocono June 13th. The Tricky Triangle, as it's known, hasn't been on the schedule for some time, but it's an interesting racetrack to say the least. Are you guys going to be hoping to have a good effort as well as you guys had here at Charlotte?
Yeah, we would like to. Yeah, like you said, it's been a while since we've had Pocono on the schedule, and it's been probably about 2 or 3 years or something like that. And typically, I'm not a fan of Pocono. I don't really run well there, but I know there's a few guys on the team that enjoy running there, and that'll be a big benefit to us when we're tuning in the car for the race in 2 weeks, and hopefully we can mimic the result we had tonight.
Well, hopefully. Cody, is there anybody you would like to give a quick shout-out to before we let you go?
Yeah, I'd like to just thank everybody on the team again for another really good car, and we've been able to finish second now at all the mile and a halves this season, which is a good accomplishment for me, especially after last year. And like I said, that's just a testament to everybody on the team, and none of this would be possible without the backing of Simcraft and what they do for us, and how great of a brand they are. Also, and lastly, I'd like to say thank you to Justin Bolden for once again being on the box, and I know he's given up a lot to kind of like hang up the steering wheel for the season to try to help me out, and it's definitely paying dividends, and I can't thank everybody a part of the 27 team enough for keeping us competitive each and every week.
Well, we wish you the best at Pocono, and we will see you there. Cody, thanks so much for hopping into the booth with us. Wishing you the very best, and congratulations on your second place finish. So, with that, we are going to go to the car number 83. It was a tough running from Bobby Zelensky, forward and back, almost all race long. He is going to be standing alongside Tim Terry, and he's going to be there for the interview.
Bobby Zelensky coming home with a third-place finish here this evening, and Bobby, it was a hard-earned third-place finish because you had to battle with Cody Bias, Dylan Duvall, and Taylor Hurst, especially at the end of the race. Talk about that little battle coming down to the checkered flag.
Oh yeah, it was a tough battle the whole race, really long race, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, Cody and Dylan there, they were a lot faster than I was, and but I knew if I just was able to not make any mistakes, stay on the outside, I could do a pretty good job of defending my position, but especially there, Cody got by, and I really wanted to get second to get me and Ray 1-2, but it just used my tires up too much there on that beginning of that run, and then I was able to hold Dylan off really close. Good racing.
We had a string of cautions just past the lap 100 mark, and we had one yellow flag where you and Cody Bias stayed out on the racetrack, and everybody else peeled down onto pit road. How big of a call was that to make? Obviously, you finished in the top 5, but how big of a call was it to make at the time when everybody else peeled down?
Yeah, I mean, I really was thinking I should pit, and Ray was dead set on pitting, and I knew a lot of others would come, but I just had a feeling I should stay out and take the track position because we only went a few laps, and there was kind of a caution feel going on. So I had a feeling, and I went with it, and I stayed out, and I had 8 cars total stay out with me, so that was nice. And they ended up wrecking, and if I pit in that last, if I took 4, I could have been in that wreck. So really glad I made a decision to stay out there and take the lead and get some laps slid.
We're 7 races into your rookie season with this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. 4 top 5 finishes. You have a win, and you're second in points. Comfortably right now looking at a chase berth or a playoff berth. Looking back at the season, are you happy with where you are now? Did you expect a little bit more? Did you expect a little bit less? Where did you expect to be at this point?
Oh man, it's gone amazing, really. I didn't really know what to expect at all. But I didn't really know I'd be second in the points and have this many good results and be averaging a 6th place finish. I mean, it's gone just amazing. I was just hoping I was good enough to make the chase and hoping I could, finish well enough every week to get in the chase. And right now we're sitting at a 74-point gap to ninth, which is absolutely great. We just need to, I mean, really, we can average like 25th from here on out if we had to, and we'd still make the top 8. So obviously we're going to look to, like always, we're going to look to just finish as best we can, go for wins every week, and so it's just been great, really. It's awesome to be 1-2 in the points with my teammate Ray, and looking really good to get in the chase. I'm just happy.
We've had a lot of unique racetracks on this schedule, but in a couple of weeks' time, we go to Pocono. Are you looking forward to Pocono? Is it one of your favorite racetracks? Where do we expect the 83 to be after that race?
Yeah, I haven't really done many Gen 6 races there. I've done an NAS and didn't really do too good, but I'll get enough practice in, and we'll make sure the setup's good and everything. I'm really looking forward to unique tracks, like you said. I like unique tracks. They're just a lot more fun to practice for and just race, just because it's unique, and Pocono's definitely unique. We got Sonoma, it's really unique. We got Indy, that's unique. I'm really liking the races ahead here, and hopefully we'll have a good run at Pocono. I really can't wait for it. I've never really done a big time race there before, and it's a track you can really gain a lot or lose a lot, so it's gonna be fun.
You got a lot of teammates that help you get here, and sponsors as well in this race car. Who makes it happen for you?
Yeah, for sure. I want to shout out Ray on his win there. Good job to him. We had some good practice the last couple days and really had a good feeling for the car. So it's always nice to have a good feeling going into one of these races. Charlotte's never been one of my better tracks, but we just had a really good car, and then sometimes a really good car can go a whole long way. And just thanks to him, thanks to everyone at Slip Angle, really, for allowing to be just getting me on this team last year and getting me to this Peak Antifreeze series. Shout out to my sponsors, United Western Industries, New Age Metal Finishing, Virtual Racing School, and Elba Designs for painting this car. I'll always give Sim Racing Authority a shout out. The league I've done for the last 2.5 years. It really helped me get better, and just by racing with those guys. So shout out to them, and shout out to Ryan Keast, Dante Ballard for all the help spotting, and Kurt Chiefin and stuff.
And there's Bobby Zielinski, another great run here in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. Going to move to second in the point standings, finishes third here tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Driver he had to battle with for that third place position at the end of the race is Dylan Duval from Halifax, Nova Scotia. He's caught up with Cam.
Dylan Duval, another good finish here, this time at Charlotte. But Dylan, you really had to work for it. Of course, you started on the pole, and I'm sure you'd love to have gone into victory lane, but just wasn't in the cards today with Ray Alfell and that powerful car of his. But you really had to fight pretty much all race long through all different phases of this to end up coming home in fourth. Take me through your race.
Yeah, it was really nice to be able to get my first pole and get some laps led early on. It's been an up and down season, so it was nice to be out front for a little bit and get to control the race for that short period of time. But yeah, it was definitely, there's a lot of up and down throughout the race. I really struggled that second run. The rest of the race, I feel like I was pretty good, but I had lost some ground then, and then there was that split strategy where I ended up like 18th. So that was definitely interesting. I don't know how I made it through that wreck. It was pretty close, but thankfully it worked out and I didn't get killed and rallied through the field. But all in all, it was a great race. Ray was just in a field of his own. He was really fast.
Yeah, and just that incident, that was really pretty much right where all the people who had taken 4 tires was tangling with all the people who had stayed out on tires, and it was really 2 incidents that had happened at the exact same time. I mean, it really left no space on the track. Just between that wreck and then all the other cautions, it really kind of threw a wrench into the race here. How did you guys adapt to it and work your way forward?
The cautions for me were actually pretty frustrating. That one where I avoided the big wreck helped just because I got to leapfrog a few guys who stayed out. But yeah, the cautions were definitely frustrating for me because I felt like we had an awesome car from lap 20 on. So every time we got a caution, I just had to hold on for 5 or 10 laps and wait for the car to come in. But after that, we were a rocket, and I just wish we would have had more green runs. But you can't always get what you want, and thankfully we salvage.
Well, thankfully indeed, and it's not just salvaging when you come home and you get a top 5, but either way, though, if only we had more laps, we could have seen where that had gone. Either way, a couple of weeks' time, or more than a couple of weeks' time, June 13th, we're going to be going to the Tricky Triangle to Pocono. It seems to be a bit divisive. We're split on people who are interviewing, whether they like it or don't like it. What's your opinion of it?
I absolutely love Pocono. I can't wait to get there. I haven't run it in a few years, so I don't know if I'll be saying the same thing once I actually get to practicing, but as of now, I'm really excited for it. It's one of the races I've had circled on the calendar this year.
Well, maybe we'll have another interview, and it won't be with me this time. Maybe it'll be with Mr. Pizzoco, but either way, anyone you would like to give a very quick shout-out to before we let you loose?
Yeah, for sure. Just got to thank SimCraft for coming on board this year. It's been great to be working with such great people. Also, got to thank DIY Sim, Infinite Creative Solutions, Tim's Corner Motorsports, the team, Cody, Bolton, for all the work that they put in every week and make us fast. If not for them, I definitely would not be here right now. That's for sure. And Birch for spotting and crewing. He did a great job tonight as well.
Well, Dylan Duvall, thanks so much for hopping into the booth with us. Best of luck at Pocono. We'll see you there.
Thanks, Dan.
And we are going to go next to our final interviewee of the day. Really was nowhere as far as the beginning of the race goes. Ended up coming home in 5th position after a huge fight through the field. Tim Terry is going to be standing by with the number 74 of Taylor Hurst.
Yeah, Taylor had to put his boots on and march through the field tonight. 40th place on the grid. How did you get to 5th place?
Man, we had a crazy fast car tonight. We went from 40th place to about 22nd, 23rd, the first 35 laps of the race, man. And I at that point, I was believing we could compete for a win tonight. And man, Jason Miller and Christian Challoner really put a working on this setup tonight. I mean, I hate I couldn't do more for them guys to help them out, but this thing was unbelievably fast tonight. And we had that caution there in the middle where I think about 8 people stayed out. We took 2 tires because we were sitting about 12th before we came in. And that really saved us because it would have put us back to about 20th, and we missed a wreck back there. And we were able to stay up front, get 4 tires, and be on an even playing field with them guys. And I mean, the strength of that car really showed whenever we got up there. I hate I couldn't do more to save the tires, but I just want to get up there and lead some laps and, put on a show for the guys, It
looked like before the tires gave way, you were one of the only drivers, at least in the top 10 or so, that could really roll the top and make positions up on that second groove.
Yeah, I was really struggling up in 1 and 2, but because it was really tight up there. But man, getting into 3, I could really just drive it up next to that wall and just keep the wheel straight and get right back on the gas. And I mean, that car was really quick up top, and the run I got off of 4 on those guys was pretty crazy. I couldn't believe it worked so well. But I mean, you got to put so much wheel in it down there on the bottom. It just gets so tight and all. The car was great up top.
You've had 4 races so far this season in this series and 1 top 5. You've had a pretty good run so far in the races that you have run. Do we see you make another run, try to get up and try to lock yourself into this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series for the 2018 campaign?
Yeah, I hope so, man. We obviously got suspended for 3 races for my own doing. We learned from that, but the track's coming up for me really great. A bunch of flat tracks. We got Pocono, one of my favorites, and Sonoma, arguably one of my favorites. I love the schedule coming up, and I'm excited. Hopefully we can race for a win or 2. Keep on knocking off top 5s. The cars we've been putting together have been pretty good. I hate I didn't get to race those 3 races because I think we'd be sitting pretty in the points, but it happens.
You mentioned you like Pocono. It's a unique racetrack. There's 3 different corners to it. What makes Pocono so appealing to you?
Just the low banking. I've always really strived at the low bank tracks. More the short tracks where you're hard on the brake. But I guess Pocono has the short track features where mean, you're flying down the straightaway and get down the corner hard on the brake, and then got to play with the gas off, you know. I really love the uniqueness of the track, first of all, and just the flatness, man.
Now, who do you got in this race car, and who do you got helping you out trying to get this 74 to the top of the board?
Yeah, I want to give a big shout out to RTR websites and Digital Downforce Graphics for coming on board this year. If you guys need a driver page or a paint scheme or whatnot, just hit up Digital Downforce Graphics or RTR websites. And big shout out to Jason Miller and Christian Challenger once again for putting this car together this week. Really solid car. And I want to give a big shout out to Andrew Lutz for being crew chief tonight, Jake Champion for spotting tonight, and Robbie Vrabel, Jeff Hollingsworth, and Nathan Wise for crunching numbers and calling some strategies.
And that's Taylor Hurst coming home with position number 5, and he marched towards the front of the field, and I think he's going to do so in the standings as well in these next couple of weeks. Pocono coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Love Pocono. Hasn't been on the schedule for a few seasons. Very unique. It can go one way or the other. We've seen some Pocono races there with a few cautions. We've seen some action and excitement there as well. You think back to the year that John Adams ended up winning at that racetrack. Nick Ottinger has ruffled a couple of feathers there before trying to march his way to the front of the field. It's so exciting. It's a big racetrack, but it almost runs like a short track in some of those corners. It's going to be a great race, and with the way Ray Alfala is rolling, going to be tough to beat him. But when we look at those standings, Evan, going into Pocono after this race tonight, they've shaken up a little bit, but I think you're starting to see the cream rise to the top a little bit with some of those drivers that might have had a misstep in the first couple races.
And we know that the guys at the top of the points, at this point, we can kind of figure out who they are. What I'm looking forward to looking at is 6, 7, and 8. Because something that I've noted all season long is last year, after 12 races, 6, 7, and 8 don't have a shot. And they're going to be right there in this thing. And I think that that's going to be that little bit extra that maybe somebody can jump in, knock out a couple of good races back-to-back and get in this thing. But as we had expected, via the win here tonight, Cam Ray Alfala, using a little bit of bad luck on behalf of Ryan Luza, is going to jump to the lead in this championship. 7 points in front of Bobby Zelensky. Ryan Luza finds himself 29 points back in third. Derek Bordeaux, Logan Clampett, Corey Vincent, Marcus Richardson, Dylan Duvall, the guys who are through the top 8.
Yes, thank you. As I was saying before, I was really interrupted by myself. I mean, you've got Ryan Michael Luza. What a day he was going to have before that incident. That drops him down quite a bit. He had 4 top 5s out of 7 weeks. This is obviously not going good for him. You've got Zach Novak, who is going to have a good day as well, and that's just not going to really help at all. But for Dylan Duvall and Cody Bias, those are going to be some good days. Kenny Humpy also, I think he was looking for, just looking through broadly through the point standings, I think he was expecting to have a good day. But obviously Kenny Humpy, he's had 3 top 5s, just not here at Charlotte where he was running strong.
Pocono is up next on the calendar, and with that being said, round number 7 falls into our rear view mirror. As always, want to thank you for watching this special presentation of RaceSpotTV on iRacingLive and the Motor Racing Network. For more information on the iRacing World Championship Series, you can go online to wcs.iracing.com. On behalf of our entire Tuesday night team, East Vanapalo on the cameras, Simon Grossman, Kevin Papey, their team for the broadcast CG, graphics by Andy Werner, of course, Will Vincent, Hugo Louise, and the entire team at RaceSpotTV, who anchors our coverage of all of the iRacing World Championship Series, and for the team topside. For Cam Walsh, Tim Terry, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for joining us tonight, and to congratulate Ray Alfala for going back-to-back. He's got his 2nd win in just as many weeks. He adds to a series best all-times wins leader out of tonight from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We've got 3 weeks off until the next race. We will see you on June the 13th from the Pocono Raceway for the 8th race of the season. That race and every race on this 2017 NASCAR Pecan Every Series powered by iRacing can be found right here on RaceSpotTV. We'll catch you next time.